Lori Lavelle.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Parks, Property and Streets Committee in Sister Bay on Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. Now, would you mind taking roll call
Housen,
here?
Laskowitz,
Here.
Bertle,
Here.
Orozco,
Here.
and Aaron's.
Here.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve today's agenda or any changes?
Usually when we discuss contracts, don't we go to a closed session?
Julie? We're discussing the contract and is that require us to go to
Don't we
closed
usually
session?
go to closed session with those discussions?
No,
or no?
I looked back and we did not.
Okay,
We're all good?
Yeah.
Okay, with that? Okay. Did I hear a second? Sorry,
second.
second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. All right, so do we have any, I'm sorry, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 4th, 2024 meeting or any edits?
So moved.
Second.
The only thing I wanted, and I don't know if you guys think this is necessary, when Mike was describing the cost for the designs. For the design and the one that we ended up doing for the administration building. You know, what the estimated cost is 3.4 million, and then it says option B 3.1, option C 3.1. That 3.4 is not comparing apples to apples to B and C, remember? So do we want to clarify that the 3.4 is with the $200,000?
They were all
structure?
200.
Yeah, the not apples to apples part was the.
Right, because then the
B
other
and
ones would have been
C
2.9.
included the in-floor heating.
B and, well, that's true, but B and C was really 2.9, but included the 200 grand. Got it. Okay, so it is apples to apples. Okay, so I have no, so if you seconded? Or
I
did
made the
you motion? Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Do we have any comments, correspondence, or concerns from the public or anybody online? Public? Anybody? Hearing none. Okay, we're gonna go to item 5A. And that is parking issues, Peninsula Century Fall Challenge Bike Ride and the Door County Century Bike Ride. That's on page 6 and 7 of the packet. I don't think we have anybody from the Pacers here. So there was some discussion about how we can mitigate as best as possible parking on Highway 42 during that event. So what happens is the bikers arrive and they arrive early, right? Because they leave 7 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And the Pacers came to us and with a plan for using the parking lot. And we approved it. And then any overflow is going to probably be on 42 or a public street or something like that. And so there were some concerns about using a lot of the parking spaces on 42. And there was a conversation about possibly doing some shuttles. The challenge with shuttles is all of the participants have a bike. And so it's very difficult to do a shuttle for a bike event. It's not hard for like a walk or a ride or a run or something. So, I mean, I'm not quite sure. I don't know what the solution would be unless anybody.
Could it be as simple as just making a sign to put on the corner of like shops saying bikers park down Mill Road?
Well, we can also recommend that we can ask the Pacers to also recommend that to the participants.
Yeah.
Because they get packets.
Right, and they could include it in the packet and then put a sign there saying, you know, an arrow saying, I feel like that's a simple enough solution.
Yeah, 'cause that's an
that
easy
wouldn't
bike
really
ride
require
or
much.
walk.
And they
you know.
wouldn't mind walking.
I mean, I brought this up to Louise because when I went to work that morning at 6 o'clock, the highway was already
Yeah,
half full
I
of
got to the
cars.
shop at 6 and they were already parking. on
They're-
42.
Right, and so then
Yeah.
they're there all day
Yep, I'll do.
and other businesses
Yeah,
that rely on that parking.
Yeah,
So I think it's a problem. I don't disagree with putting it in their packet, making that request,
Mhm.
having some kind of sign directing them to where they can, really trying to implement not parking on Highway 42. But after all of the work that our Parks Department has done for the Chris Kindle Market, and where did they park? In exactly the spot that was not roped and was not signed, and it
Well,
was
I have a
on
comment.
the curb on the
Yeah,
highway.
well, I have a comment about that though, because I was there all 3 days and it's a separate comment about what the sheriff did to help us. Because he was very helpful and you're right about that. I mean, human beings, we're all interesting people. And we apparently don't like to walk anywhere. So,
But they'll walk around the market, or they'll go into, like Lily brought up,
yeah,
they will go
Going to
into
walk.
a really big store and walk much farther inside.
without a doubt. Or they'll drive their car around the block 55 times to find a place that's right in front of where they want to go. Just what happens. So,
Well, if
Well-
they have a bike, couldn't they park like out at sports complex or Lagerquist and bike into town?
and bike in.
A half mile.
That's, yeah.
A lot of bikers, when they do those races, they like to do a little warm up before anyways, so
Right,
it could be a nice,
bike.
like, hey, park over at the sports complex and get your warm up bike into the start.
All right, I can talk to, well, Brian isn't here, Fitzgerald. Is, it's his gig, and I can talk to him about that, but also how to make them, how to ask them to be compliant, with where they're parking and, that's one also, like, we always talk about enforcement, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that word, but how to get them to, to do that. So, yeah, those are options. And so is well, they can't really park over in the boat area anymore. But we can do that. We can try. I don't know what else there's 800 riders, but it doesn't mean that they all park on 42. I mean, some of them stay at hotels here and walk or ride it or
So
something.
there's more, or like the carpool.
Yeah, yeah. And that's been pretty consistent over the last several years, the number of riders. I mean, also you can't, I haven't really surveyed any businesses to see if, like, is your business, do you get a bump that day? Is dining should, right?
So-
Lodging should.
Definitely a very busy weekend in Sister Bay.
So you want to make sure that there's a good balance there, because people that come here will eat or drink or something, right? But to try to make it easier for people that are coming here other than that is the goal. Okay, let me go back to them and see what we can do, because in other places, whenever they run, they're good at these events. When they have a run or a walk, it's all shuttle. And they're good at it and they know how to do it, but with a bike, it might be. So right now, we
I
have-
think Lily's suggestion that we just put a signer in the packet. I've done these rides many times in many parts of the state. You get the packet after you sign up and you park the car where the packet tells you to park it, and you ride your bike to the starting location.
okay, so we could use, but could we use, Lagerquist at that point? Are we gonna? Yeah,
So it's up to this committee, but you'd have, you have the entire you have over 20 acres they could be parking
but
on.
we're not gonna, because before it was always leased to a farmer, so it was planted.
So far, we haven't renewed that contract. We haven't
Okay.
even discussed that. So.
Okay.
And just so I understand, what's the problem we're trying to solve here?
We're trying to open up spaces on Highway 42 and close the spaces to that, to the event. Because a lot of times the bikers get there, say around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and their cars are there all day.
But I mean, this event happens, is this a problem for your business, Lily?
Well, I mean.
I
don't
think
wanna-
each business is different.
Do we have any businesses is it a problem for your business?
Yes,
I heard some business owners complain that there were just cars parked from 6 AM through that nighttime.
And they don't like that.
Well, not that they don't like it, but it also keeps customers from parking closer to the.
It's harder to find a
businesses.
place to park for people that aren't involved in the race. The people that are in the race, what are they doing? They're racing and then they come back later, they have lunch, they listen to music, and then they go do whatever else they're gonna do. Hard to say what.
Cause I was in Berto's twice that day. I didn't have any problem. I parked on the side of your side spots.
oh, no, I'm not talking about parking being an issue. Berto's has its own
Here, you
parking.
have yours.
I was talking about, for suits.
Well,
on
maybe we could at least
how
make it have an
I
option,
can just see the traffic count just drops that day
Okay.
because the parking
Mhm.
issue.
It could hurt Ecology, it could hurt Rossi's, it could hurt those guys up the hill. Well, let's have a conversation with them. Let's see what we come up with that would be, they feel would be amenable for their participants.
I mean, I think you're right, it is a balance and it would be good to know, I mean.
Yeah.
If you get a lot more business that day, if your revenues are higher that day than a day when there's not a race,
Right.
might be worth,
Yeah, it's
might be
definitely
worth it.
Yeah.
a good day for business, but I do feel like it was such a massive event in our small town. Designated parking would be ideal.
Yeah.
I think it would make it better on both ends, on the riders.
Yeah,
and-
people like it, like when you get your packet, it's nice to know where to
And I
park.
really wouldn't mind parking down the street.
Yeah,
You got
Well,
your
I'm
bike,
glad
you're
to
gonna
hear that
go
it's-
50 miles or longer.
yeah. I'm glad it's more the norm than anything else, because I never participated in any of those. So volunteered, yeah, but. All right, so let me work with Brian on that. I'll take that on, talk to Brian and see what we can come up with. Got a lot of time, that event's in August. Okay, number 6B, snowmobile train map proposed routes. This is on page 8 through 12 of the packets.
Okay, so the staff report is pretty clear, looking what they're asking for. Their road is much different than it has in years past. So I don't know if you want to take them request number at a time or as a whole.
Is the big change request 1, the Wiltsey property?
Well, the big changes, they're not coming through town.
Right, I knew
I
that.
just want to stick to that part. That's the
Sure.
biggest part.
Yeah,
But they're still good, I mean, they'll still be coming into town, even though that there's not a route and designated route that's in town.
Yeah, they can't control if they don't go, if they go off the route, but this is the route, that'll appear in the snowmobile map.
well, the route they want to do going through Wiltsey from ZZ to Scandia Road looks okay to me.
Really?
You don't like it? What?
It's not that I don't like it, I'm just questioning where they're going to gain access at ZZ
Yeah.
through the cherry orchard. Those trees are not planted that far apart.
There's one wide entrance there though, Denise, I think. No,
Where there's no trees planted, where there's like a road,
not a road, but I thought there was a wide,
so
I'd have to see a street view of it then. Because I thought there was a wider entrance there as you got further east. I don't know,
I'll try to pull up the
okay.
GIS.
Do you have a problem with, never mind, I'm moving on to the logger list. Does anybody have any thoughts on request number?
At least on the overhead, there's a road that runs through there like a truck trail or something.
On the east end, right?
Yeah.
The southeast end, right near county, near ZZ.
Where the trail is at.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it looks like it just follows that gap in the trees.
Yeah. How long, I wonder how wide a snowmobile trail needs to,
Not very wide,
a real snowmobile trail versus,
and they're gonna be
Yeah,
going
when you're
slow
going-
through there because they're coming off the street and going onto the trail.
yeah. Versus when you're creating your own trail. Which I'm sure no one would do.
So that, the issue Denise is you don't like where the entrance is? the-
No, I
The
was-
north blue line there,
Off ZZ,
Off of
or off of
ZZ.
ZZ?
I was just questioning how that was gonna affect, you know, the
orchard.
orchard and if they would actually even be able to get through there.
Is that a Sequest orchard?
yeah,
Have they given permission and I mean, they're usually pretty particular about these things.
well, that's a good question.
They have everyone's permission except for ours, in my understanding.
So if they got Sequest, then,
And I don't think it's Secrets, I think it's Hill and another.
oh, okay.
Sequest always had it before.
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's
could
just
be
the little
wrong,
one there, I
but-
think they're talking about, right? This one? Maybe it's not. The
Yeah,
big
it's
one is there,
And the big one's there, is the one that's toward the center of their property, but the one on ZZ must not be theirs, I don't know. Well, we look at Lagerquist site, you guys, request number 2. That little corner,
And it's not stated explicitly, but there's no plans for brush clearing or cutting trees or anything that travels there.
well, the club does maintenance. In fact, they were marking the trails today. And they clear it out remove debris that's in their, whatever agreement it is that they sign with the landowners.
I was just asking to make sure the trees won't be cut down.
When I talked to Pete from the club, he said they look like on these roads, they're going between the trees. Openings in the stone fences, opening in the trees.
Yeah.
That makes it more fun.
It is more fun to do that. To me. Not that I do it anymore, but in my youth. Okay, then we go to Green Road. So this is partially Liberty Grove and partially.
It's completely in the town of Liberty Grove, but the land is owned by the village.
It's a utilities thing.
Are you talking about request number 3?
Yeah. Just aside from your concern there. Do we have any other questions or concerns? Are you okay with this, Denise?
Whatever you guys decide.
Okay, do I have a motion?
But just so I understand, so this is the club's proposal. And they have all of the permissions and they're only asking for the permission, us. For permission to use village land. To make their routes
That's my
complete.
understanding, that is correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I pulled up the GIS.
Mhm.
There is no road. There is no extra width. There is no anything. You want me to show it to you?
I'll come over, hold on. So there's, we have one person we're working with that does top of the thumb and both top of the thumb and,
Right,
but it's not Steve Stones, okay. Oh, I see what you mean, all right. But, I mean, if that, whoever owns that. You could probably look here. This part of it,
We rent it.
that end of it?
We. Denise, we own the land that the orchard is on and rent it out.
yes.
Yes.
So. They wouldn't have gone to this person because we own it, right? Although they lease it to, we own it, but we lease it to.
You're talking between the orchard?
The orchard, that's the one that's on the farmost end, that's closest to ZZ.
Yep, we own that, we lease it, that lease has expired, that's a seasonal lease, it ends in August of every year.
Yeah,
And, we have not discussed renewing it for April. That lease usually goes like April to August, I think, or something like that.
okay,
They're waiting to see where we're at on the Wiltsey project
Right.
before we discuss renewing the
okay,
plan.
so they wouldn't have gone to these folks. To whoever our leasee is.
Was it a multi-year lease? Because if it's got cherry trees on it,
No, it's every year.
is it
And-
is it
and
an active cherry orchard?
Yes.
Yes, Sequus actually is the one who harvests the cherries on there.
So again,
It is the most productive per tree in the county.
has there ever been, I think I know the answer, but has there ever been a snowmobile trail through here?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, but if there is now because they can't come through town because of, the rerouting.
I think they used to cut through there to get to the ice rink and over to the trail behind the fire station.
Yeah, because you're right, it was one, okay. So what do we want to do? Do you want to ask Sequist if it's gonna hurt those trees or?
Well, if they're done, it's Sequist doesn't have a concern anymore because we're
No,
not.
but it sounds like Denise has a concern about the trees and.
But if we aren't gonna lease it back to them, right?
We haven't discussed it yet, but
We talk about it usually after the first of the year with them. January, February.
So if the concern is you're worried about the trees, we own the property, we might lease it to Sequist, but we haven't talked to them yet. Shouldn't we talk to the guys that know about trees and say, is it okay if we decide to put a snowmobile trail through there?
Correct.
Okay,
the trail is riding on snow that's already there. I mean, we wouldn't let them cut any trees.
no.
No, that doesn't mean that they're not going to hit branches.
Oh, that way.
Could we?
Was the club not able to get permission on the outside of that lot line? And go on the private property for 2004?
I don't know. I'm guessing not.
So we can, we can tell them that we can pass an amendment. Sorry, we can make a motion that says it's okay pending approval by, or some sort of pending feedback from Sequest. That snowmobile, that portion of the snowmobile trail won't damage the trees. If that's everybody's concern, if not, we can pass it. Good to go.
I think it's best if we check.
For Sequest. Okay. Okay. So. Who wants to call Sequest? You gonna call Sequest?
I will, yeah,
Just so I know, in
The
case I
contract
run
is
into the
actually-
Sequest,
Pardon?
this is our land, the village land. They manage the orchard on it.
They lease
It's
it,
an annual lease and they have to renew it every year. And there's no requirement on our part to have that. Because, I mean, if they've been doing maintenance on this for next year, they're expecting to use it next year. And
No.
they've spent money on it.
no, they're well aware that we purchased that for affordable housing
Okay,
and that. I mean, even this last year, we were like, we're not sure we're gonna be able to rent it to you. We have an affordable housing project.
so
So
they
same like your-
may be letting it go dormant already then,
We don't know unless we ask. So let's
right?
ask. And then see what they say, and if they're okay with it, we're okay with it. Is that okay? So can we do a motion, so we don't have to talk about it again? It says if they're okay with it, we're good, we'll let it go. Okay, Janelle, any thoughts on a motion?
Yep, the permission is granted for the villagers in the Top of the Thumb snowmobile clubs to utilize the former Wiltsey property, the former Lagerquist property, and the East Green Road property on the condition that if the orchard on the former Wiltsey property is going to be rented again, the person renting the orchard must grant permission for that to occur.
Janelle, I would just add to use those properties as shown in the meeting packet.
Okay,
I don't think we want to give a carte blanche approval.
okay,
And it is just for the 24-25 winter season.
okay.
Oh, yeah, motion, please. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okey dokey. Number 5C, sports complex concession stand restroom addition. This is on page 13 and 14.
Okay, so you read what's in the packet about it. Jeff is here, Jeff Pfeiffer is here in case there's other questions, but basically we had, years ago, we had told Bays that if the sewer lateral ever came by there, we would work with them to put in restrooms, or that's the way I interpret the agreement. With the lateral now being extended across the sports complex property to serve the new parks maintenance facility, it comes really close to the building. So now is the time to talk about, do we want to do a restroom addition? Or do we at least want to put in the lateral to stub it out there, rather than have somebody come back later and have it be more expensive? So, yes, we can stub it, or I guess the question is, should we put that stub in?
Yes.
Is one thing,
Yes.
and
I
then,
think, like everybody else does.
and then
yes.
do we want to pursue actually putting an addition on that building?
So if I saw that right, that addition would end up costing us about about 100,000.
Depends how you do it. So, you have to go through design services on it.
And that's for no matter what. It has to go
Yeah.
through design services.
We're a public facility, so we have to have state approved plans and state design. So
And the 25 grand on that is a pretty good number. Do you think is what it's gonna be?
it seems like that's everything on,
Lately. All right,
and then if we contract that out, that's about $100,000 project or $75,000.
Is this in the budget, that the just
No.
approved? Why would
So-
it not be in the just approved budget?
Because we didn't know the lateral was coming through there at that time, or where it was exactly gonna be at that time, when that budget was prepared this summer. So,
and Parks didn't request it, that's us. And the Parks team didn't request it because they wouldn't have known that that thing was gonna fail and
We were talking about the lateral going up Woodcrest and then up Autumn. That means that lateral wasn't coming close to the building, so we wouldn't have even discussed it.
Right.
But at a recent meeting, we decided it would cut through the park, which means now we can just so now that it is close to the building, let's talk about it. So put the lateral in now, yes, is what I'm hearing, if that's the motion that passes. And then the other one is, do we want to proceed with design services? Jeff had asked, what if people volunteer their help? And at first I was like, no, you can't do that. But then as it explains in the packet, yes, you could do that. So there is, the actual construction of it, we could get by much cheaper by using local people and volunteer work.
And just as a note, I mean, I know nothing about, certainly not a construction person, but Colbert just put bathrooms in their facility, and I think that cost $100,000.
It's
So-
expensive.
It is what it is. Now, this would also include a cement pathway, right?
Yeah, we have to.
You gotta do it well first, okay. So, first of all, Jeff, any input?
Well, just, currently what's there, I know you guys all know, the baseball field was moved in 2010 from the top of the hill, where the water tower is, to the new complex. We probably have the nicest ball field in the county league system, but the current bathrooms are up the hill where the TKH building is. And, there's a grass area beyond the pavilion going up that hill, and it makes it difficult for older spectators, folks with walkers and wheelchairs, I guess, to get up there. The whole bathroom thing for a while was being solved with a porta potty down below, which is technically at best, and it doesn't look the greatest for a nice park system we have. And that was really for one participant coming to the games. And then since then that person passed, but this year we've had a couple other people, and it seems to me it's going to be an ongoing issue. I mean, as our populace gets older, we're going to have overpayers, and it's going to be a continual problem. So when the lateral came through, or is going to go through now, it is a good time to look at doing that.
So where exactly would that addition go, sorry? Not where the current bathrooms are, right? Not a.
No, the concession stand where the baseball thing is,
Down by the little.
Yeah. on the backside of the building, right, towards.
Right, well, that's where we
Mhm.
would propose they would go. I don't know what the contractor will tell us, but I'm guessing that's where we'll go.
Yeah, that's the engineers behind, Jeff there, but the lateral goes between the building and the playground.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to put the addition off there, because that's the closest route, the lateral.
And our estimate on the lateral is about $5,000, if I had that right. Is that what you had posted in there?
To the restroom.
On the stuff.
To the restroom.
We don't know that for sure, but that's just, let's just plan on that to be safe, yeah.
And there's already water in that existing building.
Yeah.
In 2015, they ran a line from the TKH building down to the concession building, and then there's a lift station down there, which all it's in, there's a sink right now. And it just pumps that water back up to TKH into the sanitary system. I don't know much about that, but that's what was done. We split that cost back then with the village. The ball club did.
I'm for the bathroom. I get your issue. But I'm having gas with $100,000 bathroom.
What are the?
There's water in the building. It's $7,000 maybe for the connection. That's the estimate. And we couldn't just put 2 bathrooms on the side of that without spending $100,000. I'm looking at the engineer.
Oh, I'm just a civil guy, I'm not your architect, but.
I did talk to the architect, I did talk to an architect, though. I mean, nowadays you have to follow state code and everything, and
Yeah.
I did talk to him, is there any way we can do this for less money? And he had some ideas. What we're asking today is, do you want to give us approval to stuff that lateral over?
Yeah.
Okay? And then give us approval to get the design work done and the cost done. Then we know what we're working with. Then I can go back to Jeff and say, Jeff, this is a plan. Can your volunteers build this? The architect said there's ways to do it to make it easier for, and less money than if you had an actual design firm coming in and doing the work.
Could you just have Alliance do a quick design and then have volunteers build it?
No,
Why not?
We have to go through the bid process.
'Cause we're
Well, the design though, we have to get a bid on the design,
If it's over $25,000, it has to go out to bid.
but maybe if you went and talked to Alliance who's working on our parks building, they could just do a design for a quick 10 grand and you'd have it done.
I could ask them that.
Ask Mark Rucamp.
Well, why wouldn't we talk to our current designer, McMahon?
Alliance is the construction firm. They
They're
have
also
done,
design.
and then McMahon is the one who we've been using for architects, unless we go through the full RFP process and find somebody else. I'll be honest with you, we work with McMahon on things. There's a good relationship there, on these small projects like this. We could ask Camp. I mean, we could go out and get bids on it
I'm
too.
just saying $25,000 to add a men's room and a ladies' room to the side.
Up to
of an existing
$25,000.
building.
If it goes over 25,000, you have to put it up for bid. So they're saying, yeah, we can do it for under $25,000 is what he's saying. The design.
So ideally, so it doesn't have to go out for RFP, we want to see if we can get a design under 25 grand, right?
Yeah.
So within,
McMahon said that's something you can do under $25,000. He estimated, do a contract at 24.9 like we've done on some of these other ones, time and material, so hopefully it doesn't get up there, hopefully you're doing it.
just for the design,
15,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So if we got that, and then we come back, talk to the bays and see, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 5, where are we at a 3, where you think you can get some guys to, so you need
I don't know.
plumbers, you need carpenters, you need,
We have to probably see what it all entails. Not only that, but I received a comment from the fellow who asked me to make the comment originally about labor. And he was having second thoughts because it's commercial construction now and this and that.
And then Jeff and I also, and Skylar and Eric, we also discussed, what's the possibility of getting like a DDC grant on that?
Right.
I said, well, we have to show, the benefit to tourism and,
well,
So-
got it.
so it's a long shot, but that's something we said we would do as well, once we know what the cost is.
Well, Colberg, they got 100 grand. Was that to, build all new ones or replace what they had, or do you know?
I spoke briefly with some of the Colbert representatives and they said it was a partial to their total plan there. They're redoing their concession stand and bathrooms and I don't know what all entailed, but it was a portion of what they were proposing.
And they didn't have bathrooms.
They
or
didn't,
already-
they only have porta potties.
So they like us, so that's $100,000 to build bathrooms, and that's what they got, because that's what they got their SIF grant for, 100 grand. They may have asked for more. Colbert, when they
I
applied for the
think they
grant,
did,
they probably asked for 150. Typically, you don't get everything you ask for.
right.
So, but the bays can't apply. It has to be a nonprofit or a municipality for a SIF grant. My only-
for bathrooms? I think they recently got one.
In the park, probably, yeah. I don't
It was for
remember. I can look it up.
So Jeff
The
sent
only-
me Jeff sent me some preliminary information already to, if we decide to move forward to pursue that.
The only thing that I would consider is that if the village is planning on writing any other SIF grants.
Yeah.
You gotta be, you have to be, just remember, you know what I mean? You gotta make sure you're either they're spread apart or you have to have priorities. I'm not aware of any. But, if we are, it's just something to consider.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any right now.
Okay.
And it has been a while since we did get one.
Yeah, well, the next, because you want these in time for the next season and the next cycle is due December 23rd. And then like a month or two after that, so, and I have no idea how long it takes to build bathrooms. When would they
I
put
think
the,
that would go up pretty quick.
yeah, so when do they put the stub in, like, when are they gonna do the lateral and stuff?
Well, so Skylar was gonna do the bids for this winter and I said, hey, let's see what happens with the admin building so we can try and bid them together and try and do it first thing in spring because, and Skylar, I don't know if you want to chime in on this, but we can bid the sewer lateral through the park and we can bid the sewer lateral down Woodcrest to the admin building. You're gonna get fewer people bidding because they're really tiny projects and they're gonna be pretty high because they're running all the way up there for that. Or you combine them into one project to get lower costs.
So which means it's gonna
So it
delay it
saves
a
money.
little.
we're
A little
thinking like
longer.
March.
Yeah, I would say April 15th would be the absolute latest date that would be in the ground, and hopefully way before that, March 15th.
But you can proceed with the addition knowing that stuff is
Is that the
coming.
stuff is coming?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And when it
If
said
approved.
here that, housing 2 restrooms, seasonal, no heat, you know, a rough estimate of 75,000, then, you know, the sidewalk, et cetera. What do you mean by 2 restrooms? Men and women, 1 or 2 stalls in each? What was that 75,000? How many seats total?
So when I talked to Mike, they have to look at that, the overall size of the building. I think, you know, we were saying at minimum, we want 1 men, 1 women's. And Mike is saying, well, you need a handicap stall, so.
Okay, so
ADA
there's
compliant.
code,
You gotta have it.
okay.
So, you know, maybe that's 2. It all depends on the room we have available where that lateral goes.
In
Oh.
And
theory,
what
that
is the
shouldn't be
distance
too
we have to be from
expensive.
that lateral?
There is.
To it, so it ties in
80
with
feet or
the-
something like that.
Okay,
Well, at the ice rink, there's women's has 2 stalls. Wider handicap. I can't speak to men's, but I'm assuming kind of the same thing.
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, they're decent sizes, I suppose.
There's
Maybe,
probably a urinal and a handicap.
yeah.
I think the men's bathroom, yeah, I think there's 1 stall and 2 urinals.
Okay, and they each have a sink and that's it. They're not super roomy, but probably look at the dimensions for those. And
And for the crowds that you get, Jeff, do you think that 2 stalls for a women's, for a ball game is plenty?
Sure, I think that, you know, the TKH building is still accessible for anybody else who wants to use it in a line or something, so.
if there's a big
Minimal,
one,
whatever, you know, you can,
how many people did we get this year? That
total
attended?
attendance.
I
I've written down the-
numbers.
I think we were around 4,000, including like players and kids, because the league charges for 14 and older.
Yeah.
So we keep track of that. That was around 3,000, I think.
Okay.
So
And that's without players and stuff
without
like that.
players, spouses, and then kids. So I'm guessing around 4.
That's great.
And how many home games did you have
There's 7 scheduled regular home season games, and if you're
in the
team's
playoffs?
doing well, then playoffs, 2 playoff games. Yeah.
The other question is that facility ever available to rent for people if they want to rent it?
Yes.
Okay, so if there were bathrooms there, maybe it's could produce a little more revenue.
I've been to graduation parties there, and
Okay,
I have the pavilion.
Yeah.
I've rented it
oh,
before.
you have, okay,
Yes.
all right. Wasn't aware,
We
okay.
had Steve Mann's retirement party there.
Oh, okay, cool. What
It's
was
a
it?
nice space.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, to a certain extent, it's nicer than the ice rink. You know, but it's outdoors, you know, it's not meeting the warming house. All right, do I have a motion for the stub?
So moved.
Okay, second,
Second,
Okay, now does this have to be a recommendation to the board or can the Parks Committee do that?
Parks Committee can do it, because what's gonna happen is that
Okay.
means Skylar puts that into his engineering plan and he gets that cost estimate for that sub. And goes out to bid, and when we get those final bids in, that goes to the board.
Okay. So that the Parks, Property and Streets Committee authorizes the installation of a sewer stub or restrooms at the sports complex or at the.
Concession stand.
Okay,
do we have to note that that's outside the budget, so the full board knows that?
The board will know that
How will they know that?
because it wasn't in our CIP and we didn't talk about it. And Louise or I or Lily will talk about it.
when we do board reports,
I just wondered if we had to document it, that we're approving this expense, knowing that it's not in budget. And it doesn't require any approval over our authority.
so procedurally, what do we do?
So what's gonna happen with this is we're gonna look at, you know, the cost of that sewer lateral. At the end of the year, we're gonna look at, is there, you know, this expense is not gonna be incurred in 2024. So in 2025, we have to look at it and say, okay, how are we funding this? I did talk to Denise about it. There's a proposal I'd like to present to the finance committee on how we can pay for it.
So a trade-off,
So basically, I would make the file note that it is an unbudgeted expense. And then the finance committee has to figure out how they're gonna pay for it.
okay,
So it's
that
not,
makes sense. So it's
so it's
documented
documented and there's
and there's
trail.
oversight on our,
Yep,
the
it
check
goes,
and balance.
finance committee has to do it, and then the board has to do a final approval on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so is this motion okay that the Parks, Property and Streets Committee authorizes staff members to see that a sewer stub is created to service the restrooms that will be added onto the base concession stand building?
Yeah, all in
Right, and-
favor?
Aye.
And then Janelle, just make it very clear that it's unbudgeted.
Okay,
And then can we note that the follow-up would be to see if we can, from a design perspective, to see if we can't get that, what our estimate would be cost per design.
So then the
cheaper
second,
Before we look at that.
yeah, so then the second part of it is, do we want to move forward with a contract for design? Up to $25,000, because that's gonna tell us what that project will cost.
Yeah.
And then we can go and move forward with grants and construction drawings and stuff like that.
Okay, so before Mike asks the question, I'm gonna ask, is that also something that we need to go to finance for since it's not budgeted?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
is that gonna be
that's,
difficult?
well, and that's why I had here that, I have an idea on it, which I
And
wanna go to
plus-
finance.
Plus, in January, I think well, whenever Tasha got done kind of reconciling everything, and then I think it was in January, and we did an amendment to the previous year's budget.
Yeah.
And on all the funds that weren't spent, and then is it an ordinance or a resolution? Resolution, and it talks about all the different accounts, where that money came from, where it's all going, and it just makes everything
Outside of the SIP, right?
balance out.
Outside of the SIP.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Yes,
So there will also be those funds, but we have some other funds that we'll talk about at finance.
yeah. The board, if you follow the board meetings, you're gonna see a list of things that were unbudgeted, that they approve funds to pay for those, or things that went over budget, or sometimes under budget.
Okay. Plan, do we need a consensus on that?
Yep.
And consensus from everyone to,
A design contract.
Can we try and get it under 25,000? Can't we approve it for like 10? I mean, to build a large home right now, you can get a design for $10,000-12,000.
Yeah, but residential construction is a lot different than commercial.
I understand that, but the number of hours, and they use standard templates, it's all automated now.
Yeah, well, the contract is up to $25,000, so I don't know what it'll come in. I mean, I can beg, plead, and encourage that to be less.
Well, I mean, that's how you start to reduce cost in this environment, sending a message to the suppliers that we do business with, that we want them to be competitive is important.
Yes, that is true, and that's why we put, the bidding process helps that. I will say this, though. I have seen stuff done in the village where we didn't do it the correct way, where we're dealing with major issues now.
I'm not saying not to do it the correct
So I want to
way.
make sure it is correct and we're following.
Yeah,
the state.
I do too.
But
So we're gonna-
we always try and get it for less.
we'll start with McMahon, right? Because we have a history with them and
And they did put a proposal in here. I thought, but yeah, it would be with McMahon. They've been doing our architect services.
all right, so the goal is under 25,000, somewhere between.
So finance will discuss it at their meeting.
How to pay for it.
okay, so should I say in the minutes, Schmelzer was asked to, obtain a proposal for design services?
Forward the request to the finance committee.
Okay, and let it go with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what would the timing on the design be?
I think that's about a month. It doesn't take very long.
It could be the next meeting, okay. Right.
If we want to try and get the funding, we have to push it through pretty fast.
You don't need anything in here about design services then, that'll all be,
A contract, we need a contract,
okay,
so it'll have to go to the board.
okay.
All right, so we're done. Everybody good with that topic? Okay. Next up, 5D Mill Road West Landscaping Plan, pages 15 through 19.
Did anybody Google what a blue rug juniper looks like?
I think I know what a blue rug juniper looks like.
I'd like you all
I
to
could
take a
go
moment
Google on
to
it right
Google
now.
it.
Is it the
if you
junipers
haven't
that we're
already.
familiar with?
Pardon?
Is it the junipers that we are familiar with
That
up
we
here?
hate?
The ones we're familiar with, Denise. Blue
I don't know what you're
rug
familiar with.
Juniper, hold on, I'm about to take a look at it. Yep, that's the one I know.
Bad choice, in my opinion.
Then what would be a good choice?
I don't know.
That's not
Well-
even a shrub.
That's a shrub, it's not a
The goal
bush.
is to have
It's like a ground cut.
a bush or shrub there, not a low
Plant a
ground.
tree, a bush, or a shrub.
I mean, I
Not
can
a shrub.
understand why they chose a juniper because they're very drought tolerant. But there
That was
has,
my question, like, what's the plan for watering these?
right,
Yep.
because they're,
I think it's a good idea, we have to plant something there, but
right, but I was not, and I do not think that that's gonna look good then with the boxwoods. At all.
it's kind of a,
I mean,
yeah,
it
sort of an
it
up
is
and down
a
thing. Jeff,
pitiful
thank you,
plan.
thank you. I mean, it's in, I think that the number, the estimate isn't bad, it's $144 a bush and there's 29. So, but these are relatively inexpensive for a reason, I think, and they're probably hardy. You
Right,
know, they
right.
last forever, you can't
Right.
kill them.
Well,
I've tried,
and
um,
sometimes if they grow too much, you'd have to keep cutting them back and then they lose their greenery and.
so are you suggesting we do all, instead, that we do all, boxwood?
I'm not suggesting that.
Okay,
I just
great.
wanted to make sure that everybody knew what juniper they were proposing.
Would we want to ask for an alternative to the juniper, guys?
I mean, I just,
Something in the bush or shrub family.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
that's what we originally requested was all bushes and or shrubs.
and we talked specifically about greenery, something a little bit taller, like a boxwood.
Yeah.
We did say boxwood, because I did tell them.
Yeah.
I said no hydrangeas.
We got enough of those.
I said,
We've OD'd on hydrangeas.
so this is a new designer that's been assigned to us, so they're not familiar with our personality, I would say.
My
Um,
pickiness, is that what you're saying?
We were all waiting, Denise. I just Googled shrubs similar to boxwood. There's inkberry holly. I don't know how good this is for our climate,
Right,
frankly. Practical alternatives to boxwood, Japanese holly, globe arborvitae, a yew,
Wasn't there a reason we didn't want trees? I don't remember.
because it
the
was,
root
it
system.
was after the fact, and digging it up might hurt, the infrastructure.
Because blue junipers have a pretty low, they don't have much of a root system and they get to be 6 to 8 feet tall, but that's a different plant than a blue rug juniper.
Yeah, the rug one is very.
Yeah, it's just a ground cover.
Holly
So I
shrub,
think, I
anyone?
think that we should go back to them, we have time,
We do.
and say that we love the boxwood, but give us other choices, and please send photos. So we can see them with the proposal.
Yeah,
Are you okay with the price? Because this was an unbudgeted item as well.
I thought
It would have to be
139
25.
a piece was pretty reasonable from my experience. The emerald boxer holly is pretty, it's not bad.
I know, but you gotta read on what its tolerance is.
Up to 6 feet tall, zone 7 through 9. So what zone are we?
No.
No,
Die.
that's south.
We're 5 feet.
Oh,
We're 4.
Well, what do I
Five,
know? I'm
four.
giving you
5 feet.
alternatives.
Is what I have.
Yeah.
What are we, 5 something?
5 feet.
Well, guess what? There's nothing. Hold on.
Don't look, stop looking. and
6
let you
through
laugh.
11. Here we go. Scallywag holly. Huh? Doesn't that sound nice? Little Rascal Holly, that's perfect for us. And it's zone 5 through 9.
I think Denise's point though is we let the.
Yeah.
The planter come back to us with some recommendations.
Give us at least three choices,
Nordic Inkberry,
Louise.
just throwing some stuff. Don't you think it's a good idea to just kind of say what, like, we're thinking this? Okay,
I
that's
think
fine.
we want something evergreen because the boxwood is more deciduous, isn't it? Doesn't lose all its leaves.
No.
Contrast.
Boxwood does not lose its
No.
leaves.
So it keep it all winter.
No.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, we don't.
and boxwood is a really bright green, waxy, shiny,
Mhm.
so
It could
it,
be Inkberry. What's wrong with that?
I make a motion, we move on to the next agenda.
No, well, I'm not asking for a second, so we're not moving.
I'll reach out to AJ, tell him we like the boxwood, we do not care for the creepy rug, can you give us some other ideas along with photos?
Want something more bush or shrub.
humor me, scallywag.
Right.
Arnold.
4 foot,
Little Rascal
Height
Holly
max,
is
I
4
think.
feet tall.
I think that's a good idea to give them.
I rest my case.
I think it's a good idea to give them a height requirement like
Yeah.
Denise suggested.
So how tall do you want it to be?
4 feet.
Max.
And they know what,
I mean, we can also, prune or whatever, but we
Right.
don't want something that in its natural habitat grows to 20 feet and we're gonna try to keep it at 4.
consensus, are we good?
We're good.
Okay. 5E, administration building review RFPs, construction drawings. And everybody hopefully went to the hyperlinks and also did their reviews.
Well, I can't print anything out, so I did not do the scorecard.
Okay. Well, let's go through them.
Previous times we sent you the scorecard after, right?
Yeah, some members fill it out, some don't. The RFP says there's a scorecard, so I'm trying to get those back in case somebody asks.
But after the meeting.
Yeah.
That was
So
my-
Julie, how do you want to review this?
Let's start with number 1 and, talk about the good, the bad, what we like, what we don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed for them that they did the architecture, but then everything else was subbed out to Harwood.
Yes, all subs.
Now, was Dimension 4, Janelle, who did the pavilion?
Yep,
Why is that a bad thing? Which pavilion?
the performance pavilion.
Oh, the performance, I'm sorry, I thought you meant the gazebo, never mind. I have no experience, so.
Once again, I think I've said this every time that we have to review proposals, that I really prefer everything in-house instead of subbing.
Instead of,
Because then they're choosing the subs instead of us choosing who's doing it.
right,
But I'll tell you what, I really liked
from their proposal.
from their proposal. And
Are-
that
are you-
is
Have you skipped the Division 4 or are we still talking about Thrive?
We're on
No,
Dimension 4.
Dimension 4, yep. Just. I think it's page 8 of their proposal. And it was. Ideas we have regarding your plan
Yeah.
in those.
Page 10.
Those 6 bulleted points
Yeah, I do too. I appreciate
made
it.
them
Mhm.
go to the top of my list.
Yeah,
I
thought
mean,
those
they
were
looked
good.
at it, they thought about it, they incorporated some thoughts about maybe changing something. And and that's just the first time that I've ever experienced that, and
Yeah, it was
I
nice.
liked it.
I agree. And they've got, I looked at the size of the buildings they've done before. A couple were almost identical in size, and I did appreciate that. I agree.
I mean, they didn't mention audio visual,
No, they didn't. Some were more detailed about that than others.
right?
And they didn't really give they gave a timeline, but it wasn't very detailed. Others were more detailed. I don't know if
Correct.
that's necessary.
Right.
And also, there was one other thing. I'm not sure that if I'm looking in the wrong place or whatever, but in terms of them, any of them giving. If they're able to provide us a final document and presentation within the time frame provided. I don't know if I saw any kind of language about that.
I did in some of them where they would bring the final presentation to the board.
Okay, all right.
I
These guys, I did not see that, no.
No, I don't think I have that noted.
Yeah,
They have final plan review approval for the village board.
Okay, so it's
Is
there.
What it reads, yeah.
okay.
So
They only come once a month. I don't know if that's not enough.
most everybody said that they would only do that, but that's during construction. Most everybody is once a month, if I remember
Well,
correctly.
there's one that's twice a month, and that was.
Well, some of them was, we estimate 2
Thrive
to
was
4.
bi-weekly.
We estimate 2 to 4 meetings during this phase, both in person and virtual, and that was final design and construction documents.
Yeah, that was the Plunkett. PR is the PRA.
So pluses for these guys are, yeah, they gave us ideas. They actually looked at it and thought, like, you might want to consider this, which was great.
Pluses once a month on the construction site. Did you read that as a plus?
I think it's,
I don't think it's a
I don't think
plus.
it's a plus. I think they
it's-
should do that. I'm unfamiliar with this. I don't know if that's normal or not. If it is, then great. But there was, Thrive said twice a month.
And then you had, a negative was they use subcontractors and there's not enough detail in the timeline. Understand
Doesn't
what
look
you're
like it,
thinking?
yeah. It's pretty bare bones. And also one of the references.
No
is-
audio visual addressed.
I think this is the one that gave Ned Ederson as a, I think it was Ned Ederson as a referral.
I will say on the AV, so that was one of the questions some of the consultants asked, and I said, I do not know what the AV is. That's why sometimes you'll see it as an add-on.
And that's fine,
Uh-huh.
but it just wasn't
Right.
there at all.
And did they note in Dimension 4, if they performed the bid process on behalf of the village?
That was, I think this one was. I think this one I had that it was missing. Some, it was
I
very
didn't
clear.
see it. Yeah, this was unclear.
Some of these were hard because, like on the Parks building, we got very detailed
Mhm.
estimates on what you were getting for that dollar. And some of these, I'm not saying this one, I'm just saying some of them are very general. I don't really know what we're getting on some of them.
Okay, so if we move on to what's next, ADCI?
Yes. ADCI. This one does call out specifically what how much it'd be extra to do that construction administration.
Mhm.
So at least we have a little more detail on, this one gives a little more detail on the cost.
Yeah, the timeline was pretty specific by week. I mean, none of them were local, so these are all people that are coming from Appleton or. thereabouts.
Madison,
Or
Milwaukee.
further.
Yeah,
I think this was the one. And I don't know if this is good or bad, but I pretty much had no notes on their proposal. There's nothing that stood out. There's nothing that I really questioned. It's not like there were a lot of pros. There were no cons that I could find. It fell on me more flat. I guess, if that makes
Generic.
any sense.
well, their timeline was really detailed. That's one thing that I noted.
They had a nice Gantt chart.
Yeah.
Do they use subs? Can you tell? And what they built in, when they built in Baroque is pretty much square footage standpoint, pretty similar to what we're doing. And their fee was, I think, the most reasonable, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But
It
the
was-
question though was, are there gonna be additional fees?
Yeah, this was another one too. There's not a lot of detail in that estimate. You know, it does say, contract would be. Please understand the terms of this proposal. I recognize this proposal to be in simple outline form only and will act as an interim agreement. It will be replaced by the final contract. So not really sure what is in that final contract.
Cause they give rates, you know, their professional and technical staff rates, and others did as well. But. And it says some contracted it gives us a rate for subcontracted services, which is whatever it costs them plus 10%. And mileage. So you're right.
I think all of them except one. There was one bid that included all reimbursables in their bid.
Yeah, was that McMahon?
No. Might have been the one before McMahon, if you read them in order, but I have it notated when we get there.
So, I mean, if you're going by price, yeah, they're the least expensive, but again, there could be other expenses that they haven't noted.
The cost breakdown of the expenses was kind of light.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
It isn't, there's not a lot of detail, right? And then same with Plunkett. So. Again, there's no breakdown of services. Their overview is very broad, and they say it's broad. You know, they kind of tell you that.
Are we moving on to Plunkett now?
Sorry, I was looking at Plunkett unless you want to keep talking about. ADCI.
They're a big company. What did they say? Quite a few states.
Yeah, they have a map of the United States,
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
Sometimes. Be good,
Based in Madison,
sometimes not.
big in the Midwest and the Southeast. All different categories of business.
So Julie, the proposals went out on that gov system. And these are the companies that responded and came, and then you took the first pass at, are these the only ones that
They're
responded?
the only ones.
This
I
is
bring all of
everyone
them
that
to you.
responded.
Yep, I bring all of them to you.
So yes, this is, Plunkett is our fee to complete all of this work is $155,000. Note that we have included all reimbursable expenses and our fee excluding any costs associated with plan review fees and building permit fees.
Yeah. And their schedule isn't super detailed, but basically. Construction, May through November, you know, but it's kind of throw everybody else in too. Assuming it's completed on time. And this is the one that's coming on a they're gonna be, bi-weekly virtual construction meetings. Wait, we
it's
also
just
plan
2 in person and 4 virtual meetings, and they can do monthly in person.
monthly on
If
in
they
basis.
coincide with when they're already going to Japan.
Right, which I thought was a negative.
Well, I have some,
Yeah.
wait, but it says here,
Yeah.
we're also planning to visit the site on a monthly basis. And have included a visit at the end of construction to determine, determinate substantial completion.
Where does that work? Sorry.
So go to page 11. Look at the timeline, and at the bottom of 11, page 11. Underneath the timeline, under 2025 is where they state that.
Are you on the Plunkett one? Yeah, right.
I don't see where it says that
Well, on page one is a picture of, an old picture of our beach.
Mhm.
So if we go to page 11 of that presentation, you should be
Page
seeing.
11 is number 2, project examples.
There were, you know what, I just have a different page.
Your
number.
page 11 of the PDF, which is page 21 of
Yeah.
the packet.
So go to page 20 of their presentation, where it says timeline and fee proposal.
Yep.
Okay, on the side of that page, under timeline, go to the bottom of the page and look under the gray header that says 2025.
Yeah.
And look at the two,
Oh, God.
look at the text there.
Well, it also says that under the fee proposal, we have included monthly site visits during construction.
So, I mean, I thought this one was. Okay, I didn't think the fee was bad, not as cheap as the other one, but in line with dimension. Right, yep. That's exactly. Comments on Plunkett? If not, you want to look at McMahon?
Other project, I was really pleased with the support that they gave us, the flexibility, the explaining things.
Yeah, they're good to work with.
How everything came together for that.
Agreed.
I have a
I had a
question.
question about their quote though, yeah?
So on page 22 of the packet. Or, yeah, of their proposal.
Oh.
It says preliminary design may change this layout, but the scope of the agreement is based on this conceptual design. So. Just like the ideas that Dimension 4 brought up. That the design, once they get into it, there could be some tweaking and changes, but it's based on. The scope of the agreement is based on the conceptual design. I mean, is that a concern at all?
Is that normal to be put in a?
Yeah, I think that's, they're covering there, so, you know, like on the Parks building, we had the same thing, the Parks building, things would change, but it wasn't to the point where it affected cost. If we come back
Okay.
and now say, okay, now we don't want that atrium, now we want this,
Oh, yeah, that's a whole different ballgame.
yeah, I mean, that's why you did that first phase, because this, what's out there now is what we should be moving forward with.
Right.
And we heard this with the Parks building where they said, once we put that pen to paper on these construction drawings and you make those major changes, we're gonna have a problem. So
Right.
it's the same thing. So this is based on the design that we just worked.
Yeah, we were able to make a lot of changes within the footprint
Mhm.
Yes,
of the park.
Yeah. so, So on page 23 of their proposal, it states, it is understood that civil site survey services will be provided by the village's engineer. Is that correct?
Yes, and the RFP said that, so
Okay,
that's one of the things that said that in the RFP, so it was interesting. If
okay,
some,
because I didn't see the RFP. Okay,
yeah, and some of these included it, and it's like, they didn't read the RFP, but
okay.
we use Stantec, as our engineer for that.
And McMahon highly recommends a geotechnical engineer be contracted by the village for soil testing of the proposed site.
Really good idea.
We did that on the Parks one too, because you don't know what you're gonna run
Right.
into.
Okay.
We did not require that. I think McMahon's the only one who addressed that, or. I can't remember if another one had that.
So the, in their proposal, the audio visual is optional, but they do itemize that at 12 grand.
So on page 28 of their proposal, AC, attend weekly meetings for preliminary design coordination as required. So these will be. Because we pretty much already designed it, but now that they're gonna draw it a different way. I mean, I thought it was a good thing that it was in here. I'm just wondering, because we've done so much of the layout already. What did that mean?
So we did this, this is what we did on the Parks building too. Mike and I meet every week,
Okay,
by phone or by Zoom. And it's like, hey, we're having a problem here. Do you think there's an issue if we move the fan this far over? Or the manufacturer can't provide it, you know, we're gonna have to move the doors over a foot, stuff like that. So they don't really, they are not making, once we approve that design, they're not making any change. They run past us. If it's a big one that the committee would care about, of course, we bring it to committee, but usually it's, you know, they can't get the beam in that location, we have to move it over, but stuff
Okay.
like that. But we check in, at the current time, we check in every.
Okay.
So-
I like that, 2 in-person meeting, 4 virtually with the oversight committee, which is us.
Yeah, it's good.
That was in there, and they all should have put that in there.
And they did. I like that they put in the AV, because I absolutely think that. I don't wanna deal with. Separate, I think it should just be incorporated into. I mean, it's such a huge component of what it is that we do.
So for boardroom, conference room, and village chambers. Have to have more, a better understanding of what they think we need for AV. Yeah. Multiple third-party integrators.
So just McMahon stood out just because of the work we've done with them in the past, and I know how flexible they are, how good they were to work with, so. Well, the other ones reading them was like, yeah, they offer stuff, I was like, oh, I know McMahon can do it.
So my question about McMahon, we have so far a good history with them, so. Their bid. So what I need to better understand, I think, is I understand the additional 12,000 for the AV, right? Then what is? Hold on. McMahon provided owner's construction representation.
No, that's an addition of.
I know, what is that?
Okay, so what that is they're going to. Take when we're done with the construction drawings, they're gonna actually take them out, they're gonna put them out to bid on our behalf, they're gonna tally up those bids.
Okay.
They're gonna work with whoever's, they're gonna deal with getting the contract to them. They're gonna have that contractor will. They're basically coordinating between the contractor and the village. And then they're also, instead of us having to go to the site and make sure everything's, the door's in the right place and everything, they're doing it. Which I'm glad when people offer to do that, because your staff is not qualified, you know, to make sure everything in that plan is as expected or as.
Okay, so that's an optional service.
Yeah. So they're acting on our behalf, they're doing everything we would normally do if we had, let's say, full-blown engineering staff, which we do not.
And then what, do you think we're gonna need more renderings?
I personally do not think any more renderings.
I don't think
Oh, we don't have to commit to that now anyway, do we? Right. It says additional renderings for $2,500.
Yeah, I think, right, you would have to pay extra. If you want that, you would have to tell them that, and then you do like a change order and they'd add that.
Okay.
So this one, okay, so they're saying. Assume 6-month construction schedule, they would visit the site 24 times in that 6 months. That includes their mileage impact, so.
And the other proposals that don't call it out, that would be, we would either have to pay them extra to do that, or what?
Yeah, there's not a lot of, like I said, some of these didn't have a lot of detail, you know, some of them do follow up the site visits, right? We know. We're gonna get this done in 6 months and we're coming once a month, so some of them are very specific, they're gonna be on site 6 times,
Right.
you know? So they do have that detail. They're not very clear on them, some of them are not very clear on the mileage and what that's gonna cost you, you know, they show you what they charge. But it's not very clear, is that included in that bid, or is that an extra? That detail comes in the contract itself, when you get to that point.
Are we able to counter with a not to exceed on some of these ancillary services?
I think we could. You know, it's gonna be, and whatever we're doing is a recommendation to the board.
Yeah, and we don't have a standard scorecard, so as an example, to the point that was made, you'd think that McMahon would get extra points if we rated them well on work they've done for us before.
Well, the scorecard that's in your packet is our standard one, it's just that I tweak it a little.
The
for
score,
project.
when I've seen these before, we're looking at the scorecards, they've already been scored and then.
So that's a bid. That's a bid.
No, I know, but I mean, you're right, we don't have a staff engineer who can do that for us.
Right, what happens is when we put them on, so bids and RFQs are all different, but when we get those bids and they have scorecards, that's a very clear little 1-page, you know, a couple lines on it. Showing that what that score was.
Yeah, because when you
And
know,
they, I'm sure, Mike, in this case, they would do that on our behalf, or whoever we hire, if we, agree that we want them to do those construction management services, they're gonna do that and then give us, and let us know what the scorecard looks like.
and that's a tricky thing about evaluating, right? Because some of these services that are included are more valuable than, you know, the one is offering a more valuable service than somebody else, and it's not evident to us because there's no way for us to really score or understand the detail without asking them that question.
I agree, and that's where it has come in handy in the past on, you know, a particular project that I can think of where the firm that we hired reached out to all the people that bid and said, now, wait a minute, I want to make sure we're doing apples to apples here. Do you know you have to do this?
I agree,
Do you understand?
that's a very valuable.
And that's
service
what
for
the construction part of the construction management,
Yeah,
which we're not doing.
I get it.
So my question is, did any of the others, because I didn't notice that any of the others, with the exception of Thrive. Yeah, construction, they had an additional cost for construction administration. I don't know that I saw that separately for anybody else. So should we assume that was included in anybody
ADCI
else's?
ADCI did have that. There wasn't a lot of detail on what we were hitting, but they did have construction admin in
They
there.
were the lowest bid, but they didn't include that as an additional.
So on page 21, you'll see they had construction administration for 21,000, or I'm sorry, 19,000.
Yeah,
Um,
ADCI,
yeah,
Okay.
on page 21. I just don't know what's included in that.
21 grand, okay.
19,000.
All right, and last but not least, we want to look at Thrive.
Now, they looked very familiar to me. Right? we received another proposal from them. What was it for? I remember the company.
Yeah, the faces too looked familiar to
Yeah.
me too, but I couldn't remember why.
Don't quote me, but they might have been one of the people that responded to our original RFP for design services on the building.
That's,
That was a year ago, you guys already,
yeah,
or a long time ago.
because they were. Yeah.
Because we had
That's what it
about
was.
4 or 5 that we looked at
And
that time
McMahon
too.
was there.
No, they were one where there were like 8 or 10, and they were, Janelle printed them all out for me. What, was that for the Parks building that we had that many?
I think so.
Okay, that's what they were, okay, so that was,
It was about a year ago.
Okay.
Right?
seems like longer ago than that. So.
This one too has construction management.
It
Right,
was-
and all their engineering,
They do the service is not included, but no price. Like surveying, geotech.
they do have audiovisual design
Yeah, I see that
included.
for 8 grand or really 10.
So with the audio visual, I know it has to be done really well, but a lot of times the audio visual consultants like to come in after the space is pretty much done because they can then see what they have to work with. The problem is, and most of it's wireless. Jerry, I don't know if you have any experience with that. But because based on the shape of the room and the ceilings and the walls, it can really be tricky to get the sound system right. So. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're better off keeping that as a separate line item and getting quotes on it concurrently.
Well, when I look at McMahon's experience,
They have it in their quote.
they separately,
It's separate.
12,000. It's an additional
Onto
cost.
the optional services fees.
I agree with you, Mike. I think, I think it's good to put that optional because you could have a community that really don't want much and you could have one that wants 6 TVs in the meeting.
Well, I've been involved with projects where we put it in the contract, spent a lot of money, and then a year later, we were redoing it because everybody complained because they couldn't hear. And it didn't integrate well with legacy systems.
Good news is we don't have any legacy systems.
Well, like with whatever we're using for Zoom or
Oh,
other connections.
if they've done, well, they did. Recently, very recently, they did, I think it's pretty recent. Chilton City Hall, that would have, I think, yeah, AV Designs.
That was McMahon though.
That's what I'm looking at.
Oh,
They used somebody named Smart Spaces and give a guy's name. I mean, I think we should, it never hurts if they've done this kind of work and they've done AV before for somebody to call and ask them if they were happy with it, but especially since we don't know anything, like we don't know what we don't know.
Thrive was the one that subcontracts pretty much everything.
Well, and
I think what
not
does
that
too.
one, what I'm gonna say, one has anything to do with the other, but if we didn't choose them to design it, why would we choose them to build it? Because they were the only one who was. And they did, but that's just here or there. Mine came down to McMahon and Dimension 4, and with. With everything being equal, like you said before, Jerry. Awesome to work with, get along great. Good lines of communication, good follow through.
Well, I liked all the times where we couldn't really articulate what we wanted, and he was like, just give me a minute. And we're like, what do you think of this? And
And that was it.
really good ideas.
But there's a level of trust there, which is huge. You know, and that's, you know,
And
somebody.
they're,
that's-
and
That's
I
important.
mean, they're all within, except ADCI is obviously low. Otherwise, everybody else is within a few
Couple
$1,000
$1,000,
of
yeah,
each other, and
that's
so.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would do either or, but if I had. You know, my preference, I'd probably go with McMahon again.
That would be my top pick to McMahon.
Mike, what do you think?
I think we have a track record with them. I mean, some of these other folks, I mean, Plunkett is pretty big in southeastern Wisconsin. They've done a lot of nice projects. I don't know if they've done any work up here. I don't know. And the other ones I really don't have any experience with.
Well, what's nice is, not nice, but it's important that they're familiar with York County and they're familiar with Sister Bay. It's not always the easiest place in the world to do things, you
Right.
know? So if something happens or so, you know what I mean? There's, stuff happens. It just does. So knowing the environment and what that kind of thing is, I think a plus. Might make things run smoothly. Great, are we prepared for, anybody want to make a motion?
So this would be a recommendation to the village board.
Anybody want to make a recommendation for the village board, please?
I make recommendation to accept McMahon's bid.
That sound okay to me, or sorry, you know?
I need more.
Yeah, how much do you want, what dollar amount do you want in there?
I think you leave that open.
Yeah,
ended
Yeah, because we have
voted.
options.
For the board to
Different
decide.
options.
Okay.
Yeah.
As presented.
Okay.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up is, 5F Administration Building Civil Site Design, page 25 through 35.
Okay, so also as part of the process, as you know, we have to figure out the slope of land, where the pond goes, all the other stuff that goes along with civil site design. We use Stantec for those services, and this is what it would cost. This is a not to exceed amount. This was pretty much what we had on the Parks building and it didn't come in near there, so Skylar did tell me it was a high bid, but worst case scenario.
And so it will be what, time and material up to 35.5?
Yes.
So I have a question, is this might be stupid, but is this part of the 200,000 in the infrastructure to get sewer and water out there? Am I confusing this with,
Yes,
I lost
yeah,
my mind?
yeah, because number 4 is sanitary sewer and water extension.
Right, so this is part of that
That-
200,000 we thought it was gonna cost us, right?
This includes the engineering for that.
Okay, right. So this is budgeted and we knew it was coming. No, it's not, but it's part of the 2.9 million without.
It's part of the Wiltie, it's part of the.
Yeah,
what we
it's part of the
budgeted for
3.1
Wiltie.
for Wilson, gotcha, okay.
And is, I just, maybe I didn't hear this right. Did we say this is a not to exceed?
Yes,
So it's time and material not to exceed 35.5.
right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now you have to recommend that to the board too?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have to sign the contract.
Okay, 5G.
Julie, just, I mean, do they have to put not to exceed, or is their language essentially mean the same thing?
The way it's written, it's the same thing,
Okay.
because they talk about the hours.
Okay,
I can say this. I'm floored at the prices we get out of Stantec. Stantec, nothing has come in near what we have budgeted for. It's always less, substantially less.
Well, I
You
mean,
can
that's
say that in
good,
front of
You
them.
shouldn't tell me that.
I was gonna
That's
say, do we
good, but-
really wanna let them know?
but it wouldn't hurt to have a not to exceed on there.
Skylar,
You're correct. I probably should put a not to exceed disclaimer in there. Internally, we're not allowed to charge any more than what this contract is without you guys approving to us.
If that's the
So-
policy, I think that's probably okay. That's why I asked Julie if this language meant not to exceed in your language.
It is, yes. That's how our internal auditing services works.
Thank you.
5G, former Lagerquist site, design exercise, page 36 and 7.
okay, you guys wanted a little exercise to move stuff around on the
Are we gonna
logger.
get up off of our chairs?
You are.
What,
However, when I was talking to Skylar, I'm like, Skylar, I'm really not sure what they wanna move around on that site, cause you really can't move much around. So I had him, asked him to do some community gardens, so we have some raised planters for elderly people.
You don't have to be elderly to like a raised planter.
Correct.
I would do raised.
I would do
Ever
raised.
planted
And
anything in the
these
ground
are,
here?
no, these aren't raised, but like that, I mean, they're at table height where you work like this, okay, so there's something like that. And then different rows, he did different ways of doing the rows, so all of that's laid out, so we have those to move around. And then we have the admin building as well, so I wasn't sure
And
if
the
you want me to
dog
cut
park?
the admin building out. We had a dog park. But on the first one, which he gave me before he went on vacation, and then today I said, I don't need the dog park, because what happened, I wanna remind you guys. At first, we talked about the dog park, and we talked about moving it around, and then at one of the more recent meetings, you guys decided not to move the dog park.
No, yeah, now.
What?
We agreed not to move it now, but we needed to do this plan to determine where it was going to go, so we could start planting trees, so that in 10 years.
20 years.
Or whatever it would be, that we would have the area for the small and the large.
Okay, well,
That's
here's the
what
dog
was
park.
said.
I say it's all to scale. You can,
It's all to scale. So let me just real quick. Skylar, what did I do with the other plans from him? The dog park plan.
Is it a totally different scale than the one you did for the,
it's at a 30 scale, which is fairly zoomed in when it really comes down to it. Frankly, you ran out of my ability to print anything bigger for a full 40-acre chunk, so you got it at the.
So
okay, but what I'm asking is when we did it for the sports complex, was that the same scale?
I think it was, yes.
Shoot, I thought I still had my envelope in here of all my,
So
Well, if you
Skylar,
look at the size of that on there, it's kind of comparable to community gardens.
it really
Where?
is. So this is what Skylar gave me before he went deer hunting. And it included a dog park, a soccer, some stuff like that. And I said, no, they don't want that on there when we talked today. So I said, take the dog park off, take the soccer field off. But if you look at what he drew, the dog park, Jerry's right, the dog park that he drew, a large dog park is approximately the same size as this. And the small dog park he drew is approximately half. So here was the large dog park, here was the small, here's the community garden site. So you can see it's pretty much
okay,
almost the
so we
exact
can
same
go up
size.
here and,
So I do have a secondary plan set, which is at a bigger scale, but it does have the dog park and everything on it. Which could be confusing.
Let's try this one first, so we don't confuse or get too.
Louise?
Yeah.
I have a quick phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put that one there, Jerry. Did you want the admin buildings cut out to put on there?
I think we should know how, what the space is gonna be.
Please, you want to bring these and I'll cut out the admin buildings?
They had free donuts in the market.
And then I'll cut out. Skylar did, he does have a little border around it, so you can see, like, this is the actual dimensions, but he has a little dotted line to leave room around them, so here is his admin building. That's what we talked about, yeah.
Well, it's really, what do we want coming in off? And how much can we have coming in off 57?
CZ.
Sorry, CZ.
Oh, what can we come in off ZZ
Yeah.
from county highway standpoint?
Well, I mean, what should we?
I personally think your community gardens are.
Right, so if we wanted to keep all these. Would we wanna put the garden, closer somehow there?
This working well, really, right?
Yeah, this well, we're not able to use it for any of the buildings, but we can still use it for the gardens, so
Yeah.
we would trench a line over the sort of gardens.
Yeah, we definitely need water. Right now we have 4 locations.
Yeah, or, so Scotty did different ones, like what kind of, like you want a road or just a big thing. This basically would be your dog park. So if you were
Our park's gonna need 10 parking spaces.
this one, if you did something like this, I would think you'd want it closer to the parking lot.
That's the more accessible place to raise.
Yeah, and we probably have to run something over there for a wheelchair.
Well, the golf course is gonna be 10.
So do that,
Oh.
make it easier to, I mean, you could actually do that. So it's right. Close.
Yeah, and you can even turn this, we had talked about these little buildings that are becoming for the community garden. Yeah, for their tools and stuff.
I think we should ask the community gardeners what they want. We should have them look at this. Just one or two of them. So they know what,
Well, you're one of them.
I am, but I'm not out there and I don't know as well.
Corey,
Even, I would ask Cory. There's a lot of different considerations. Like fencing, access and parking, they need parking. They need probably 4 stalls, not more than that. I've never seen more than 4 cars at a time.
Yeah, but this is a much bigger community garden.
It could be, so then maybe 8, something like that.
Because if you go by what was in that housing plan, the people on the Wiltie site, their lots are too small to have gardens. So it opens it up to be more of a true community garden where you have a lot of people actually come in versus a small.
So what, I don't know if we know this, but how does this size compare to what we currently have?
Skylar, do you know what you have, offhand? You don't have much.
On top, you're talking over by the wastewater plant there?
Right, because outside of that, there's also a large, huge mound of mulch that we use. So that also needs to be taken into consideration because we use that in the spring and the fall. And the guys give us fresh mulch occasionally, but
There should be a place for weeds to throw into a compost.
we have those inside the garden right now. But if that can be inside the garden or it can be outside the garden, but we
Go
have.
somewhere like this, right?
Yeah, we have a large bin for that now that's overflowing, but yeah, there is a place for that that's probably
See, but
4 by.
I don't know that it has to be here. Because if you have people from Woolsey, eventually,
250 feet.
a lot of them could just walk over, especially if you have all the tools, if you're able to keep tools here, you're not lugging anything because everything's
Everybody keeps
there.
their tools there. Everybody
So
has, yeah, everybody has a trunk, everybody has their own tools, sometimes you share, yeah, but no, there's no storage. You bring your own storage.
Yeah, it's.
So there's space for, a garden bin,
50 roughly by
just like a
3
little
by.
trunk.
Well, that's what
3 by 6.
we talked about, these would be their storage.
Right.
Great, if they can use those, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you had,
Yeah, they're gonna want, the thing about it, they can use the ask them, right now, here's their storage bin. there's their garden.
Yeah.
They don't walk. It's
Yeah,
right in the
well,
middle
they
of their
can
garden.
also still have those plastic
Okay.
patio things.
I really think that Cory and Kathy should, just once we decide, have them take a look and see.
Sure.
Come on.
And there's different types of community gardens, right? The ones I'm familiar with, you have these community sheds where you,
Yeah.
we have tools, we pay for tools, or they donate tools and they go in and check them, not check them in there, but they're responsible for going in there, clocking it when it's done. They're responsible for making sure they're not weeds left out, stuff like that. I mean, I envision this being more of a true community garden versus what we have at the sports complex.
Or everything's just there,
Yeah.
everyone has access to it.
Yep, a larger variety, and, because right
So
now it's kind of like,
charge for anyone to use it.
we hadn't talked about that, but we've never discussed that.
Who's gonna manage
I
it?
think, and that's one thing I think we have to,
It's not easy managing that garden, Cory and Kathy,
I think that's one thing we have to
spend a
get,
lot of time managing gardeners.
I think that's one thing we have to get a grip on, because
Yeah.
that community garden is, I hate to say it, but it's village property.
Yeah.
The village doesn't know anything about what's going on there, we don't know who's in there, how many rows are in there, we don't know anything, because it's like a small group of people just kind of took it over, and this would be more of an organized, actual $5 a year, you're renting a row, these are the rules you're gonna follow, here's your key to the tool
There's
shed,
rules out at the one now, there's a fee,
but no,
there's all that stuff.
yeah, the village doesn't. Normally we have
Because they
3 minutes,
pay for everything.
but it's still village property.
I
We
know,
should
I
still have
got you, I
minutes.
understand
Yeah,
that, but I just want you to know that they have a
Yeah.
vested interest and they manage it, I think, really well. It looks great, except for my area, but otherwise, it's really well, I mean, everybody takes good care of it and everybody's responsible and they're held accountable for what they're doing out there.
What was?
So the current community gardens are 240.
Let's say 120 by 240 for a nice rectangle.
120 by 240, and what's
So
the
this
size
line-
of this?
So it's this wide, but
Just like that.
another that much longer.
Smaller, much smaller.
Another 20 feet, so that's only 180.
Yeah.
But that's the inside line, so probably the whole length of it could be pretty close to
So the whole length
200.
up.
This is the,
So
this is what you have here.
Well, the
How big
whole
is
length of
our
the
piece of
community
paper.
garden?
220.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, so
220 by 160, that's roughly what your current existing one is.
The inside of this line is what we have right now.
No, just the whole paper.
Yeah.
That's what we have right now.
And so what you have here is smaller.
Yes, much smaller.
Okay.
Well,
no,
unless
it's
we,
exactly the same.
yeah, because the whole paper.
The whole.
Well, this
piece of
is
paper.
This is just the outline here.
I know, but if you use the whole piece of paper,
I thought we were just using inside. Okay. To figure out how many plots, and I don't know how big the plots are that you design.
Those would be, yeah, those broke up to, what are they, like 20 by 30, something like that. Yeah.
They're big.
I'd actually, when I gave it to Skylar,
That big.
I had sent him some numbers that I pulled off resources on the internet about true community gardens, what sizes they have, the types of roads they have, some examples, and that's why I did some different varieties.
so what is the zoning? You have to have asphalt in parks.
Yes, there's one exception though, you know, we first of all,
What's the historical society?
asphalt.
There is none.
But we talked about amending that, we talked about changing that, because even in our parks, like our parking for the bays should be asphalt. So we had, Plank Commission had talked about revisiting all of that.
We should revisit it if it's possibly seasonal use parking lots. It would be a good way to define why it wouldn't have to be asphalt. Community garden, because then I'm thinking, all we'd have to do is put in a culvert and a drive here, and you could have some kind of parking over here just for the community gardens. That you would not have to pay.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Well, right now, we park on
seasonal.
grass and the, you know, the drive is in dirt. Was grass.
So the most it would cost us is an apron and a culvert.
Is the dog park considered seasonal use?
No, it's around.
So it
But
could
they
get
could
looking
shift,
the
but they
same.
could,
What, 'cause I was thinking.
they could get a village waiver to use
The
this.
dog
in
park
parking lot.
over here, we've already got trees there, so at least it's a start towards. And then if they share parking,
As long as it's removed a little bit from the highway, that would be better. For parking. The reason I say that is because every once in a while, if a dog gets loose. It just can be dangerous. I mean, most people, they're all leashed, but sure enough, like there, if they get loose, there's no, you know, they run. On court and grab them and put just everywhere.
Well, when you're laying out that dog park, why don't you think about restrooms, right? Some people porta potties all over and running water all over.
all
Does it make
all the
sense,
restrooms are.
Well, I don't know, though. Should they? So this building,
We use water a lot. At the dog park in the summer. for the dogs.
yeah, so I mean, is it better off like?
We just need a hose, but
I mean,
Okay, but
the
now-
water comes through here
I
like
know,
this.
but you need sewer for a bathroom. Not just water.
But that's what I'm saying, if it's over here,
speaking for the dog owners, we don't care.
they're closer, I mean,
But
I mean, if
don't
it's-
think we're betting like that, yeah. Yeah. The water, a well with a pump.
the porta potty, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure, but not regular bathrooms, not a regular restroom. No, we just want to win. Freaking cold right now.
Okay, so community, okay, so. This is east. So you're gonna have all the morning sun. You're gonna have sun all day long. So we would be able to plant street trees here because it would, the gardens stay here. That will never affect, there will never be shade. Here, right? And so we can, plant trees here.
Yeah, good plans for a party or something that would give you some.
Yeah, then
Screening.
start marking this up then, okay?
Would also help with wind coming, well, normally comes out of the west.
Is there any drainage or anything to worry about here?
No, actually, the site is great. It all shoots off that way perfectly.
This way.
Yep, I didn't see
6:30
any
here.
644 up here. General
I mean,
consistent
it's
slope.
pretty
There's,
small slope.
there's
Yeah.
generally, if this was a development site, it'd be great. Consistent slope across it makes everything easier. Question for you guys, Lagerquist Farm, what's the overall vision for that entire farmstead?
Barns,
These
the
days.
barn.
Does it make any sense to create your gardens within that space as it's all part of a historical agricultural?
The problem with that part is there's a lot of shade down there,
It does.
but up here.
Here is the
I
barn.
think this might have been the only building, no, this one and this one that might have, well, that's not even a building.
This one, Denise, I think this one's already fallen down.
I thought it was, this was the red one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think this is the real.
it was long and it actually confused.
No, I thought it was a smaller one with the house. That was
We all-
Louise.
Louise?
It's so praised.
No, we had talked about this garage coming down right
I
here.
don't know why it has to come down, it's always been there.
I don't know, but that's what we said when we were on site. I thought.
I know.
Somebody said it, I didn't agree with it. I just,
What's the harm of leaving?
yeah,
What do you need? None, but let's talk. What's the use?
Well, is it
we'll
an
find a
old-
use for
Well,
it.
is it an old?
It's the same as this, it's an old garage that was kind of turned into two separate migrant.
We just not tear it down right now, okay.
Right,
So,
To Skylar's point, we're kind of keeping it in the field, but if we did something more like.
Maybe the raised garden.
More like that, it gets a little closer to the parking lot, easier access for the water.
And you can create a trail from here. I mean, I imagine who's ever gardening is your typical admin stuff. big events are after hours, sunsets.
During the day, to use these bathrooms during these days.
Don't wanna be so close to the barn, because I just don't think we know
Yeah.
what its future purpose holds for it.
Well, you could allow, you could talk about maybe parking around there or something like that, if you just allow for that.
I wasn't even thinking about parking, I was just, I don't know, just don't wanna encroach on it too much.
So if we're not worried about these trees for the dog park, then a dog park could be kind of close in here, and it's very convenient parking.
If they can use all this parking, because it's during the day, that building's not gonna get a lot of parking.
And if we wanted to plant trees for shade around the dog park, maybe even moving it here, so we can tree here without worrying about shade in the gardens.
I was trying to utilize this corner.
Well,
Be- and-
why?
Tell you.
Other developments.
Other development, if, because I think we've talked about that we don't necessarily, if we reserve space for a fire station for the future, that's gonna be closer up to the road, you know, like this. Okay, so we have all of this back here.
Maybe we're showing this really quick, and that's such a zoom in view. We're laying this out the same way, like we're only looking up to,
Oh, there's not trees
Here.
there, never mind.
so we have.
Oh, we still have all of
Yeah,
that.
you have a lot of area this way and that, way, so. Don't feel like you're,
We're only on about 20 acres. right
yeah,
now.
you're looking at.
Oh, half.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so only about to where?
What do we got?
1, 2, 3.5 of the curves. Or, yeah. Yeah. if you look
1,
at-
2, 3. Okay, at the end of county,
631, you got 2%.
631,
Yeah,
Oh.
the half.
Owen Road.
Owen Road. Okay, so we have all of this. And then where do we go? Does it go all the way?
This goes up to 653. Here, W.
So not a whole lot this way.
No.
Okay. But quite a bit this way. So. Then that would be totally reserved. That frontage. For fire station.
The scale too. Slightly smaller, so.
You all agree this is right?
Where the other building is?
Give or take,
I
yeah.
don't know, if you have to talk to people in community gardens before.
No, I think she was just talking about.
Yeah, you gotta have to be that. The dog park too.
Well, we
See,
see, like the dog park people and everything.
I don't like all of that close to the admin. I really don't.
The only thing I'm thinking of, Denise, is they can share the parking lot and the restrooms if they need them versus spending money on more parking than porta potties.
We're not really spending money in parking. We're
We
Putting
get
in
away
a
with grass,
culvert.
if we get away with grass parking for the dog park, that's fine. You know, but that all has to be fenced.
But you know, it's gonna happen, and that's another reason to keep it closer if you're just doing a fence around. With the grass though, my.
I'm
concern
sorry,
with
if
that
I'm
is-
working in this building or whatever. Don't listen to yapping dogs.
What are you hearing those dogs?
I've had dogs my whole entire life.
So,
If they're yapping, they're happy.
No.
Mine is.
But it's going back to this,
Yeah.
the community garden, they're not all raised, right? So there'll be some
These are the
plot.
raised ones.
Yeah, if these.
Or those are the raised ones, that was the open plot.
If,
And you were asking because I thought it was an interesting idea, putting the raised plots in the farm area, which would have been kind of cool.
And keep in
Well,
mind.
and the raised plots are for more accessible, so closer.
Yeah, well, if you were anywhere in here, you could walk over here, it's not that far.
Instead of drew it this way, I don't know, we have to decide how many we're actually building right away.
Or people can donate,
Sponsor.
sponsor.
I think people would be happy to do that, to be a treasure. I think that's an easy ask.
Can I get off on a quick tangent? I really
Sure.
read a great article, and for a future agenda, I would like to have Parks talk about Sister Bay having a volunteer day.
Great idea.
I think that.
So, I mean, so if you put these in, you could probably fit these all through here somehow.
But here's the problem with that. If you were a gardener and you're trying to garden the space.
Want to be
you need
close to
your
your parking,
tools-
yeah.
You need your tools close by, you need water.
Yeah.
It's really good if it's convenient, because at times it's really,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can be very hard work. So that's the only, I mean, it's, I like
Well,
the
maybe,
idea.
maybe a few, but then you're getting better use out of this space and not, you know, adding, well, this is not the scale, right? Or is it? Well,
The little parts
The
are.
little parts are.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so you can put a lot of.
It looks like a lot of space, there isn't that much, what we could do is, we could get volunteers that could do some gardens here that are decorative, that are colorful, we could probably do a very nice job of doing something there, yeah. But if they're vegetable gardens, or some of them have perennials in there, you know, they really, it's a weed, it's a lot of work, you want to make it as easy as possible. But again, you gotta ask them.
How many, people have typically done community gardening? I've seen the plots, but I don't know how many people there are.
We have
It's
20.
full, we.
So
need
there's
more.
20 different plot maintainers.
It could be more.
Yeah, very,
Yeah.
that's we have as many as, there's one space I think that's not being used. But,
I do agree with, we that could get some input, or at least what.
they're really vested in it, they've been working on it, long time, they worked hard, and it's just a good idea, and they'll make it better,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and
Well,
I think
and we're not saying though, I think the way our last plan was in the sports complex,
Mhm.
whatever, I mean, those gardens can still continue to stay
I
there.
also that, I mean, that
I mean,
raspberry bush is as long as those, all three of those, table.
So I
tables.
mean, this is an addition to,
Well, then
That's
they'll,
really nice.
well, it's likely they'll
What's
stay
there?
there,
right,
they won't move.
I mean, are there any soil issues for gardens here? I'm sorry. I
We're
thought
gonna
you were-
swell that.
Yeah.
We're gonna swell that.
We are, yeah.
So you do bring up an interesting point, and I don't know the history. Was this ever orchard? We,
no, I think it was always fun. I mean, not saying that they didn't use chemicals, in it,
Yeah.
but not an
So
orchard.
this portion was farmed like last season,
yeah,
there was wheat, I think.
yeah.
I think
which
because
is-
you have picker stumps there, guessing there were cherries. Sarah.
We could go back and look, but they're gonna test the soil again, right?
Exactly, as part of your geotech investigation, we can probably tack that
Yeah.
onto something, which brings up another good point. You're gonna strip a bunch of topsoil for this, you may as well stockpile it on site, so you
Oh,
can use
that's
it
good.
for picnic gardens.
That'd be awesome.
But after you test it,
If
make sure
it's
that it's all.
decent.
It is good
soil.
soil, sure.
Cause I would not know that.
Yeah,
That's-
And only if it's screened, what is it useful?
Cause that.
Yeah,
that's
but you
all
could
our-
hire, it's cheaper than importing screen topsoil, you could stockpile your own thing and have someone.
Somebody
come in
screen it.
Right there, screen, right.
Yeah.
Um,
Do it all.
okay, so we don't have to fill the whole rest of the map tonight, right?
So the big decision is, what, I'm just curious, I thought the decision was already made to put the building there, or?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
the.
We just were putting things to scale,
Around,
see what,
okay.
where stuff would go, where.
I'm with Mike on these raised ones. Make them, you know, who says they have to do that, they could just be a road, like right here. That they can access easily or something, no, it doesn't have to be this shape.
Right.
And we're just kind of talking about general areas.
Cause that does take advantage of some of what we have here.
Right, you don't need to take it so literally, right, it doesn't have to be a square.
And it's closer to the water. Mhm. Because those ones you do have to have, I don't think a gravel parking lot would be good enough to these, because those are wheelchairs and people have, mobility issues. So they'd want that stable flat surface.
For the raised ones?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I know, but then you're gonna have to have asphalt or
Okay.
asphalt or concrete all around them, not just parking. You're gonna have to have a path and all of this that will have to be a hard surface.
Or the rubber mat that they do, those roll up rubber mats. Yeah, I think the Wilmite sits right like in the.
And does it have enough capacity for?
I don't know, that I don't know, but it's a, it was a farm well, residential
Yeah.
well. We can't use it for, of course, the admin building.
No, it's great, but I mean, I'm just worried if it runs out mid-season. And everybody loses their garden, they won't be too happy.
Well, I thought,
I
well,
would think it's okay since that it's supported a house and a farm,
Yeah,
would be my guess.
is there a backup flow? I mean, the backup would be, where's the water line coming along the
Their
street here?
backup would have to
Put it in here, right?
Was on here.
Yeah,
So that's a good question there. Do you want to stub a lateral into whatever you're gonna eventually do at Lagerquist Farm for
Yeah.
wasteful water?
Yeah.
Part of the- part of the
Because
install?
we don't know when.
That's
I
what I'm
believe
saying.
someday it's gonna happen.
I think so.
look at your little finger doing.
Sewer.
lateral,
No, Maine.
or main.
Eventually, someday. Yeah, so he'll have to put a septical there, he has to connect this, and he has to connect this. Cause this, by law, is supposed to be on the public water.
Oh, okay, so that's.
We have a
What about
law that
this?
says when you annex the homes, you have to abandon the
What
well.
about this home?
Oh, you have to abandon it, you can't, I thought if it wasn't used for residential, you could, as long as the water wasn't used for residential purposes, you could still use it for law.
Well, you have to abandon the septic. period.
Yeah, that I know.
And the well, you can keep the well, but it can only be used for like landscaping and.
Right, outside stuff.
Yep. This, I think we need to talk about, because this is not on sewer and water, never has been. You wanna keep it there, does that get moved someplace else for?
Well, see, when we did the tour, and I've never, now it's freezing cold outside, I never went and got the key, and once you found them to go in this or the house, so I don't know what this looks like inside. Did you go?
I know,
No,
not
okay.
inside.
So I don't know how,
Whether it's worth keeping.
whether it's worth repurposing,
So I'll tell you my vision,
because you've been in it.
no. So I look at things like, what can you do that if you ever need the land, you can easily convert it? I was telling Skylar this today, and Denise, I think I told you, is on this site here, I always thought it was worth planting trees, and then you had sleigh rides through here in winter, back to Ice Ring, down to the Woodland Trail where we'll have the lights along the trail. So you have the little sleigh rides, it comes back to the little fire pit, people can stay here, they get back on the trail. And now they look at the lights, they can go over the ice rink. So in winter, you have an activity that people actually can do. Because right now, there's not a lot. And that's something that if you ever needed that land in the future, well, the only improvement you have on it is a trail course for a horse. And trees.
Well, the land across the street, which is Wiltsey. I mean, that, I don't think we can do anything there because of after the testing of the soil, right?
We have to be careful what we do on the part that has the arson.
Right, because I mean, there, we wanted open space and green space there, so there's. That too. I'm all for green space and open space.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, just leave it on, why you plan for it at this point, we don't know what we're gonna have.
Yeah, that's what I don't think we need to talk about developing. What we want to develop in the rest of
Oh,
the.
where I was going with that was the little shack gets moved to sell tickets and serve hot cocoa and stuff like that.
Oh, well, yeah, you can always move it right, yeah.
That's where I was going with that.
I mean, I'm not, when I was talking about the. I was just trying to condense things more. To leave a portion wide open for the future.
Portion.
But I suppose. If you do crunch it all up there, then. The whole, everything in the back is open for. Whatever.
You have to consider the users and what will they want. You know, what's its use and what do they want and where should it be located for them?
Yeah,
mean-
keep in mind on the dog park, people ask for a large dog
Yeah.
park, and small dog park, so we really should be looking at one and one.
Small dog park doesn't have to be that big. Our dog park now,
I mean, there's a spot there,
I mean, it's great because they can run and it's terrific.
although
Do you think
you
that,
don't want trees here. Trees, you wanna keep it a ways away.
When were you seeing the current dog, why do we have to move the current dog park?
Well,
It's real
there's
wet
this-
and swampy.
During the facility planning, they talked about that, they talked about how it didn't, there wasn't enough for a small dog park and a large dog park. People complained about the drainage issues,
Only in the front.
restrooms,
That's
parking, those are all things they talked about, why.
Plenty of parking.
And they had talked about at that time that the dog park would be moved across the street, not to here, but across Autumn Court.
Where?
And up by your community garden.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. If we don't have to move them, you know.
And that one just stays a small one.
Here. I think we need to poll the dog park users. And say, what do you like, what don't you like, what do you think?
The only place
If
it's
they're happy
wet
with it,
is when you first walk in. In the back, after all that rain, I was there every day. I
I'm
know
just
it's
thinking of the
higher.
complaints that have come to the.
Because it's
committee in the
higher.
past.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
actually
I'm there every day.
Allison, I think it was Allison
Yeah.
who said,
So
as a
it's
park
too
member,
wet.
that it's just too wet, you know.
It's not wet as you get further back. It's wet up front, but we could do something about that. We used to do. Parks do a lot more there in the past. And they don't anymore, because we don't ask, which is okay. It is what it is. So you could put stones, but you could also put a lot of, shit.
These guys could take a look at it, maybe it's cheaper to
Our
stay there.
The pond goes
Maybe
pretty
stand
close,
next to, or, is it
the
stand next
new
to?
pond goes pretty close to the dog park.
Yeah,
And I don't know how that's gonna impact it with filling.
the pond is actually in sort of a burn condition back there, but you're absolutely right. We drained that low point, which is right at the corner of your dog park, and that is
That's the only place where it gets wet.
Yeah.
And right by the front door, because that's heavily trafficked, right?
When you
And
do it, all
also
the
there's no-
infrastructure work, you
there's
just
no
put a
grass
couple
there.
French drains in there to just do it. That's not. That'd be fixed. Little gravel, little dirt.
Engineer not unbudgeted, Mike, unbudgeted.
Yeah, that's not very expensive.
No. They've hit enough soil there,
PVC
that we
and
wouldn't be in the bed.
Spider string.
So we kinda like community gardens there, but we're maybe thinking dog park stays where it is, and this is.
Yeah, I
See,
wouldn't,
but
I
that's
wouldn't have the
what
dog park
people-
in two different locations
utilizing it. Right now,
every day.
Maybe there'd be more if it was someplace else.
maybe there would be more if,
Dog park, are we still talking
There would
about?
not be more if it was something else.
as we continue to grow. If there was a small and a large,
Okay, I argue you could put a small over there right now. You don't need that much extra space for a small dog park.
Yeah, that's why they want it small. They just want their dogs not to get bugged by the bigger one.
And when you walk over there, it is huge.
You quite a bit of area behind there. don't you?
Yeah.
Yes. You don't
You
need,
could open it up.
You guys, I hate to be the bearer of
Yeah,
bad news,
right.
but you gotta remember, we went through the facility plan, we had people come in, we had people fill out
Right.
things, and that's one of the things they said, so.
They said
You know,
what?
you-
What did they say?
You two might think that. no,
I'm just asking
fine,
what they said. I want to listen. What did they say?
That you need to move it and you need a large and a small. They also wanted,
I agree that-
playground equipment, I think.
large and small, I agree.
Forget it. I didn't know that they said we had to move it. I thought they wanted it fixed.
Yeah,
And they wanted a large and small.
yeah, so if you go back to the facility plan, you'll see that, I'm not sure if that was in the outdoor rec survey or
They
not.
said they wanted it.
But we need to look at that, so just when we're talking about this, let's keep in mind, and
I have to start
Well, let's
asking
look.
people when we're there.
let's look back at the documents, because we need to I think we need to keep in mind with the public school.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm fine with that.
Very much agree with that.
I'm fine.
We should make sure.
I can make up a survey and I'll ask everybody when I'm there. I'm there every day.
You're doing it.
Let's do a regular survey. No, let's do a regular survey.
Well, the users,
We gotta get to take a survey.
I think it was in
It needs to be
April
a
or May.
dog park.
In April or May, staff was approved to do a survey of the dog park owners and dog users, or the users and the public. But then with Pasha leaving, that whole project was dropped, so maybe we go back to that and do an actual regular survey.
Well, you should have the people that bought licenses. You can survey them. Right? You won't have seasonal people because they didn't buy a license. So this time of year, there's about 12 of us that go on a regular basis. But so it's a tough time of year to do it because I don't know who you're gonna.
Well,
I didn't
I
find
think we would do it in spring again and, you know,
Okay.
have Bay Lake do the words so they're not biased. They
Yeah,
like
sure.
to review those, and then they help us get that survey out, do the online survey, people fill it out.
Is there a
To make
kiosk
sure
there?
that we're, pardon?
Is there a kiosk?
that would be great.
Like, right at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that's a great idea.
yes, right
Yeah,
there.
make sure we're really doing what they want.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, that's easy. And they'll fill it out.
So on the dog part, let's just put that on hold then, until that survey is completed.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that?
And how are we serving
Janelle, you
the
got that?
community
Mhm.
garden people?
We can bring them up.
We can ask Kathy and Corey for that. But they've been to a lot of meetings, because they were worried about the community gardens moving in the past, so this was a while ago. I think probably when we were going.
They came
through
to a
that-
few meetings,
Yeah,
yeah, like
when we
3
were going
months in a
through
row.
that. So-
With heirs, I
Yeah, with
think.
the facility.
Yeah.
So they're available, they're both local, they live here year round.
And there are people with perennials there who want to stay in the existing spot.
I'm-
But what we're
I'm
talking
guessing
here,
that they would, I don't see why they'd want to move.
and this would be
But-
in addition to what,
Yeah, I didn't realize that,
Already
so
there.
that's great,
Yeah, because there's nothing else that we
Yeah.
put in that area.
yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't move, no, it's a great area.
The only thing we talked about in that area was
The dryer.
getting the people from your large subdivision to the sports complex and putting in a walkway through there. That's still something we have to revisit and.
There's space.
Still kind of space with
There is
the
space.
long-term arena park being approved. and-
So we have to work that out, but, yeah, this is more, there's, especially when you look at Wiltsey, those lots are gonna be too small to have gardens. This is, you know, pretty much across the street where they can have gardens. And then we have nothing for ADA or senior, or, I'm sorry, people with mobility issues.
But This one,
Dorothy
this solves a
Center.
little bit of that.
Yeah, in Door County Medical Center, if you remember, they were gonna put one out, and then that didn't happen.
what were they gonna do?
They're gonna do a small garden out there. They just, whoever was gonna try to do it, just didn't do it.
And Green Tier, I know Green Tier might want to weigh in on it too, because they've discussed community gardens a lot. And compost piles and things like that, so.
So for this agenda item, did we cover the ground we needed to, or
For
there?
this agenda item, what I got out of it was, yes, the building goes where we always thought it would. We need to. start
Everything
talking
else
about-
is up in the air.
We definitely want trees along here,
Yeah, but
and everything
generally,
else is
yeah.
up in the air. Yeah,
We just want our community, but.
Right, just one random question, throw it out there. You had made a good point earlier that best time to plant a tree is yesterday, right? Last year. Is there any logic in, do you plan on having a farmer farm this for the rest, or do you want to start thinking about getting some trees like in the whole area now, so that in 15, 20 years?
That's why we were having this conversation, so we could start planting them
So we know.
spring
where-
or fall
not that much
next
trees.
year, once we knew, you know, because we need, if we were gonna put a small and large dog park over here, we had to start creating shade.
Figure what seedlings, you know, where they just stick them in the ground is really cheap. I mean, you can do 40 acres for cheap relative.
And then,
10,
well, I
15
think we wanted to plant a little bigger
Okay.
trees than seedlings.
Bigger than the ones that Holbrook plant for that 50 stuff.
On the lot lines, though, see, they're even getting started with them.
Yeah, that's,
no, I was just looking at, I'm sorry, to talk about grants all the time, but I was looking at one that was for tree planting. And it was one, I was looking at an old municipality magazine, really behind. I was like, darn, I wish I had known that, I would have applied for that. So I think it was up to $10,000 in trees, or $100,000 in trees or something. I'm like, I know exactly where I'd plant those trees if we had the money, or where I hope we would.
You just submitted for something for City Circle Bay for a tree planting grant. Oh, Natalie, who you talked to, did all that last week, that was about.
Yeah, because something like this, I mean, it's disarray with the loss of canopy and all those eye tree stats that we've talked about, Denise, that plan commission and stuff. We're in a great position to get money for trees. We have, real quick, the worst canopy of all the communities in Dorone, so. we took them back.
Many ash trees.
No, that's for.
Maybe. we
Well,
talk
at
to
least we can
sequence
start
of
planting
cherry
these
trees.
street trees, we can start planting next year.
What do you think?
6
you guys,
foot.
evergreens?
A combination. Maple. It is, I mean, this is Maple Drive.
Deciduous,
Sugar maples. Classic Door County sugar maples.
They grow fast. They grow fast. Then you're cutting them down.
Pardon?
maple and. Pine?
No, not pine.
Tamarack?
I love tamaracks, but no, they lose their needles. Just the good old fashioned Door County cedar.
Big cedar everywhere.
We just got to protect them from here.
You have a combination. I mean, you're here, this property line is probably gonna be the best place for a cedar. Not necessarily your street trees. But here, for the windbreaks, for the definition,
Yeah,
of property.
I know on here for some lights.
Decorate. You can decorate a cedar and it looks nice
I
too.
mean, what if the remainder
Look at the
that?
domes, those are cedars.
Well, let's fix the lights in the village first, and then we'll talk about.
We're planning. Hey, Eric has spent a lot of time and money trying to get the lights.
Is there any drifting issue out here with snow or anything? No.
So when do you do the soil borings?
For this?
Yeah.
Good question. We can probably get it done. We gotta put it out the contract. Month or two, I guess. Pending the geologic, geotech schedule.
You can do it in Frozen Cry?
Yeah, they gotta accelerate.
Right,
Or do you have to go
and so are you gonna,
For structural, they usually go down all the way to refusal, or bedrock,
Okay.
30 feet or whatever it is.
Holy
Or
cow.
a lot less.
Yeah, but 6 feet or 3 feet or whatever it is. Yeah.
Because this is on slab.
Usually building that size, they like to know. Just so
Make
there's
sure
not,
no settling.
yeah, a chunk of bad soil 10 feet down, it's gonna cause differential setting.
so you're gonna do those borings for the building, but we need to know,
Your local ag extension could probably go out there and do a typical, like a agricultural level soil test for all that soil topsoil, just to know what your values are. Yeah, I can look at what that would be.
okay,
And
You go to the co-op for that, cause they gotta,
if you go to the co-op for that, I'm just thinking from a possible pollutant standpoint, you might have to
Right.
invoke somebody a little more, which we have people in staff in Green Bay. that-
so when that guy from the co-op does it, he doesn't look for pollutants in there?
No, they usually just look for your macronutrients.
Okay.
NPK.
reason
so
love
that
nice
has to
growth.
be our top priority, because that will, when we talk to the dog park people, when we talk to the community
The
garden
gardens people.
people or
yeah.
whatever,
No,
we need to know sooner rather than later
Yep.
if where we think we want to put it is even viable.
Okay. So we have a call with our Stantec person who did all the stuff for Wiltsey, so let's bring it up then.
Yeah.
In fact, we might be able to do that whole phase one thing through the Bailey experience again.
If they have money.
Yeah.
I don't know if we go to that plan here. I'll tell you what, if I was planting veggies out here and I was a municipality, I'd wanna know if there's arsenic or lead there. Because I wouldn't want somebody growing their veggies there and then coming back someday and suing me over it. And I could say, whoa, we tested that site,
Yep.
this is what we found.
Yeah, so I mean, that could be a quick, that's because they don't have to go down that far, right?
No, that should just be the first.
And we could talk, I mean, the co-op has a person who does that.
Lead and arsenic.
I don't know if they do the lead and arsenic. But the lab they send it to might, if we ask them to.
Yeah, be a good first call.
I mean, you gotta pay them. Maybe there's other
Should be
people.
Cheaper than,
And I think we also need to, figure out where all of our street trees, after all this is, dug up or whatever, where we're gonna plant out there right away. So that's gonna be a big budget item next year. Next year's budget.
Yeah, after it's built, go over and walk and say, "Look."
Trees, and more trees.
you want to alter that driveway
Okay,
location
we
at
good?
all, or add a second one, or?
This one,
Yeah. Yeah, where it is.
I'm not happy where it is, but that's where it's always been, because I think it's awful. If people really, if we leave it there and people would use it. It's so close to the corner. I mean, it's not, I don't know how close, maybe you can tell me. 50 feet?
100 foot.
Oh, okay, well, farther than what I thought, then. But not a great place for a driveway, but it's there.
And what do you think about this one as far as the barn? Like. This should, there's been discussion, does this become maybe for a farmer's market, just storage, we don't know. But, eventually I think you're gonna want to go. Into there.
No, it should,
Right, people are gonna come in, they're probably gonna park there and they're gonna go into whatever's happening at that farm. So how far does this go?
not that close.
They
Well,
all
we
have
need to
enough
figure that out.
space to. Then not super long driveway, like that's not really expensive, but if we get too close and then we.
We don't know, I could see buildings backing up there, unloading, loading.
This is
Do
how
we know
we
that, or-
This is how my man drew it, and I didn't ask them why or whatnot, but if this was me, I would put a straight driveway right off that side, and square this off.
Yeah, that's how I thought it.
Yeah, and then at that point, yeah.
Why he did that, Skylar, is because he and I talked about, well, what's gonna happen over here.
Okay,
If people
that's-
hear you,
Exactly, that's, if you're gonna catch.
Yeah, but I still like that better, and you still have this connection.
Yeah, you can still do it,
But the access still, yeah,
still be here.
I like that way better.
Oh, yeah,
you want the access here now?
Yeah,
yeah.
and then, it's just stubbed, But, and maybe
How far
that,
away?
so that's 100, that's 100 feet to. Show me 50 feet from the end of the barn to the driveway. Whoa, there's 50 feet.
Yeah.
I'll measure with the 50s and remove the paper.
Ball line.
I don't think it should be any closer than 50 feet. Well, that's just my opinion, minimum,
minimum 50.
because otherwise I
Get it
think
from
then,
nowhere.
I think you,
If you do it,
this starts encroaching on,
This is a commercial building.
right, the
Administration
history.
building. Only people that are going to that building are people that want a license or coming to a meeting. This is more park-like. This is not an event building. No one will go there for that.
Right, but
There will be events there.
wouldn't you wanna use this parking lot, dual purpose parking lot, like if this is used for something? Or whatever, wouldn't you wanna use this parking lot?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
that's
saying,
Like, But we should decide that, but think
I mean,
about that.
where's
right now,
75
Skylar has to
feet?
draw that.
I have a good eye.
So the question is, do you want vehicle access off of this parking lot into here, or is it just foot traffic trails?
Foot traffic, automobile.
Okay.
Okay, what if you have to back something up over there?
Right,
Let
but
them back up.
they
here.
can, this, we could make it pavers.
Is there even a garage door on that side? I don't
Not a
think,
garage, no.
there's, I think the sliding door is in
What
the
they
front of
guys
the
do?
building and on this
Oh,
side,
nice
on
access it, it's
the north side. I don't know that there's any access to the
Yeah,
building on that
the
side.
big garage door
Right.
here, I think there's just a small person.
Yeah, the guys accessed it from this way, right, which means they pulled in here and back.
Mhm.
I mean, I would leave it 50, 75, whatever you want, but I wouldn't over engineer it at this point.
Right.
I mean, he's gotta draw.
No, what are you talking about?
He's gotta draw the civil site,
Yeah, I get it, so just have them draw it and leave the stuff that Denise is suggesting, and don't worry about the driveway and whether it's a walkway or.
Okay, how far from the barn does he drive?
I said 50 or 75 feet, but there's not that
Okay,
much
what do you
difference.
guys want?
75.
75, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So if you ever turn this into a vehicle path, I would go closer to 100.
All right, let's do 100, thanks.
You're gonna,
Okay.
you're gonna have to have a
Otherwise, yeah. I think
turning
it's
movement
baseball.
around.
It does, because they're just, because now you have a sea of asphalt.
Separate uses.
Right.
When you take away all of the charm of what we're leaving, what are we leaving?
Right there you are.
Perfect. And
Okay, so then that'll affect his design, his signage.
Right.
and that
And
leaves,
soil testing.
But he'll know
not that
exactly.
I'm
the place
advocating for the
it is.
fire station, but I mean, are we gonna be too tight?
no, we have a 12,000 square foot building we're standing in
Okay.
right now, it will fit.
So what's this, 280 from the barns, if we go here, 50? We'll be right here, so we're
At the end of the building?
Yeah.
So that's the end of that
That's
building.
far in there.
Perfect.
Is right there.
And that's with 100-foot offset from the, there you go.
Firehouse will be a lot smaller. Because we
So
won't
they
have,
climb.
we won't have this kind of a meeting room.
Yes, they will.
Why?
But they're
Yeah,
trained,
they do all kinds of
Why can't they
training
come
and
and
stuff.
use this one?
because the firemen will want to do it on their own site.
They need something this big.
Okay, we gotta get moving here.
This
Yeah,
big.
ask for,
Mhm.
they built it for them, not for us.
I know, I wouldn't, I don't know how to get them that big. Okay, we done with this one?
Pull out from here now.
Well, we were up there for 45 minutes of the you.
Yeah, I don't know if it matters.
Yeah. So I understand you can.
Perfect. Skylar, impressive skills with the ruler there.
Okay, staff reports, pages 38 through 40.
So I just wanted to, I didn't have time to do mine, but I just wanted to talk about the lady, we had wanted the woman with the crosswalk heart
Yeah.
to talk to us.
Mhm.
So she was not available for this meeting, but she will be here for the January 6th meeting.
Great.
On the historic signs and QR codes, I did meet with Historic Society, I met with Carrie and the president, but a great conversation, it was about an hour or so on what to target first and how to write them and funding and signs and things like that. So
Right.
we're gonna be revisiting that again after Chris Kindle Market,
Right.
it's just too busy right now.
Right.
And then next month, I do wanna, so we do a annual report every year. So we'll have that at the January meeting or try to have it for the January meeting. That'll also, kind of summarize the initiatives we pursued this year and what the impact it had on our budget. And then post office update, I wanna let you know that the post office is gonna be sending a letter out to everyone. So, bye Skylar, thank you very much.
Skylar,
Um,
What does the letter say?
so that letter will say that, hey, we're looking for a location for our post office. If you have anything in mind, please let us know. I got a hold of Gary from the post office. I said, well, Gary, wait a minute. I thought that we were talking about this or we were gonna try and work together and see what we could do, and he said, yes, he said they still intend to try and work with the village on a location, he said, but they do have to send that out to everybody just to show fair and not favoritism, just in case there is a property or something out there that might work.
Send it out to the residents or send
Going
it
to all the
out?
It
residents.
goes to the property owners. So,
We need to have a lot of communication from our office about this. This cannot just come from the United States Postal Service without communication from our administration office about this coming. Because they're gonna wonder what the hell is going on.
well, and I asked him, I said, I'm really concerned when the public gets this, you know,
Well, we should be.
they're gonna wonder.
It's gonna
so-
sound like post office is going, we have no idea
Yeah,
what's
or it's
going
gonna
on.
sound like,
So
or
anybody
it's gonna
that's
Yeah,
sound
interested-
like.
because
We
the way,
intend to build a
the way
new
the-
post office.
the way the letter sounded, because he showed it to me, it sounded like, the village was kicking them out of their building. I said, whoa, I have a concern with this letter,
So
so.
why did they think that?
So we have a letter, or we have a meeting lined up for, I think it's the 5th, it's with the post office, Nate and myself, so.
And
And
what are you
then
meeting with them about?
his letter,
His letter to you, right,
no, the letter that he is sending out to the public, the message he's relaying,
right.
talking about, you know.
Have we seen a copy of the letter?
He had sent one to Nate and I, and that's why I said, whoa.
That's the
we
one
gotta
they
talk."
gave to all of us at the board meeting, right?
Could have been. Could
So
have been.
just to catch us up,
If it's the
I
one,
apologize.
you're not on the board, you wouldn't know this.
Okay,
So if it's what I read, it's very confusing.
Mhm.
And as a resident, but you know what, I gotta tell you. No matter what you talk to him about, the United States Post Office is gonna send that letter.
Well, we'll.
They
we're gonna
are.
try.
so Julie, they're gonna send a letter out to all of the residents. And what do we think is gonna be included in
The
this? letter?
property owner.
So
The
they're gonna
property
send a
owner.
letter to the property
Okay,
owner.
profit, so if you're a renter, you wouldn't get one. Property owner,
No, but seasonal or not, I mean, it's.
Yeah,
If
okay.
you own property and have a tax bill in Sister Bay, you're getting it.
okay,
So it's
And-
just announcing that their lease with the village is ending, that they need to find a new location. Does anybody have a location for them? And when I saw the letter, I said, look, I'm very concerned about the message this is sending. It sounds like the village is kicking you out. Not only that, I said,
Well, the
What are
village
you
has an
telling us?
idea of a location for
yeah,
them.
so what are you telling us? It sounds like you're not gonna work with them.
What location?
The
But-
facility
but-
plan approved the one next to the library.
Library.
but I'm just, I still,
We're
I'm
gonna remodel
submitting,
that for
I
them?
know I'm not on the board, but
Read
so
them.
this,
Absolutely not.
are they soliciting an existing building? What
They're,
are,
they're saying, hey, does anybody have anything before we make up our mind on anything? What's out there? Does anybody have anything? Maybe-
have an existing building?
Do you have
Yeah.
anything for us?
What have we told them we're gonna do for them?
What do you mean? for-
We told them we had a site.
And they're not gonna pay anything, they lease from us.
Correct.
We're gonna
I would assume we would charge them.
to
Why would we
remodel, to remodel that building?
Not
What
to remodel.
building? Remodel what building?
Well, what site do we
The-
have for
Okay,
that?
so-
Old Parks building by the library.
Yeah,
So the facility plan
Plans
talks about your,
Get rid of that building.
and build them a new building that they are gonna lease from us?
Yes.
yep, that's in the
Why would we
CIP.
ever do that?
Louise, you saw it in the heirs plan.
I know that, I told you, I thought the airtime was worth nothing,
That was
and
just
why
approved
would
in the
we
CIP. too.
ever build something for the United States Postal Office who's going to lease it from us.
Otherwise, we lose the
Lease.
post office.
No.
Well,
not
we might lose it
necessarily.
anyway,
We might lose it anyway.
Well,
yeah, so I mean,
stay there and leave it here, stay there.
Cause they have,
I think they said the current facility doesn't work for them. I
Did
thought-
they-
I thought
did
that
they-
was some-
did
I
they
thought we
say-
approached them.
so I think everybody should go back and reread the facility plan. And catch up
I know
on
the
that.
facility
I know what you're talking about. I know that it's in the SIP.
I know. it's
Not,
in
not,
the
it, but when we talked about the SIP, I think we have, what, $2 million in it for the
We
SIP?
do.
That wasn't something that the village residents gleefully
They
supported.
don't think it's, well.
And I would also say, the risk we have is if we're gonna build a very expensive building, we gotta get a big lease number from the post office, and they're gonna be trying to cut costs like there's no tomorrow.
So
And we just gotta make sure we aren't building a big building, they exit in a year, and then what are we gonna do with the building?
And
Sell it?
that's a great that's a possibility, so we gotta talk about all that. I'm just saying the facility planning process, I remember the meetings here, the public came in, they talked about where should the post office be? People even said, is there any way to maybe use this building for a post office? There was a lot of conversation, meetings back and forth, the Parks Committee spent a lot of time on it. And the final conclusion was, when the Parks building is gone from that property, that is where that post office should go. And that was based on public input, and that was based on input from the postmaster. And then that went in the facility plan, committee spent a lot of time on it, it then went to the board, and that's what was adopted, and that's what's in that plan. Based on that, it was put in the CIP, and then that, so.
I
so that's
accept,
just
I
where we are.
accept all that,
That's where we
but the
are.
part that I don't get is we don't make the decision if the post office is gonna be in Sister Bay or how much
That's
they're gonna
absolutely
pay.
correct.
They could care less.
So I just want to make sure we're not going too far down this, because it's not on the agenda. I'm just telling you that that letter is gonna go out from the post office. And Nate and I are
You
meeting.
saw it. You see what it says? What are we doing to let our residents know in advance what it means?
Yes,
That's
it's-
why I think they're having a meeting, Louise.
Okay. The one thing we didn't ask the residents when we said, where do you want the post office to be? The second question we should have asked them was, are you okay with us spending $2 million to build a new post office? We didn't ask them that.
And we should ask them, or do you not want it up? You
Or-
just want
Or do
the,
you want to just use the one we have now?
So again, let's watch it because it's not on the agenda, but just, so I'm giving you an update that letter will go up, but Nate and I are meeting with him to ask if they can revise that and change that.
Can I
Revise
just
it
make
to
one last comment? It seems like if we want a post office in Sister Bay, which I think almost everybody would want, who lives here, we have to find out from the post office what we would have to do to make them want to stay there.
And I think up to this point, they've said it's too far away from the end of our lease, we're not talking to you.
Okay,
We went from, we're not talking.
but now
to
they're
you,
talking to us.
Sending a letter to our residents in 2 months.
This is the year that we renew the lease, so now they're talking. You were right on that, Jerry. The other thing is broadband update. I did ask, Bertram for an update to make sure we're still on target for the end of, or for April to have installation. And at first they were a little concerned with some things, but I did hear from them today. So far, they think it looks good, but they have to get a final, still looking on the final map.
Julie, I've talked to these guys a couple times and I signed up. First off, the website is totally screwed up. They acknowledge it. The best way, if anybody wants to do it, is to call them.
Yeah.
In their Bailey's Harbor office, because their online app doesn't work if you're using Chrome. They came to that conclusion with me on the phone. Yeah, this doesn't work with Chrome. The other issue is they have a hard time answering any of the questions about the services to be provided. What I can tell you is that Spectrum does all the install and the burying for free, but they do it different with fiber optic, right? They actually bore a 1 1/4 inch conduit through your yard. So you really want to be there when they do that to make sure it's not going to wreck your flower gardens, kill your trees. And you want to make sure they're going to a route on your house where it's convenient. And they claim that they schedule it with you so you can be there and review the route with them.
Sure.
If you agree upfront to connect with them, you get the installation for free. If you do it later, it's $200. The last thing I learned is that if you sign up upfront, you guarantee their current pricing, which at about 200 megabytes per second is $50 plus fees versus about 75 bucks with Spectrum. So they're a little bit cheaper for what is known to be a little bit better service. So I did it, but I could not believe how much work it was to sign up for.
Well, you get your questions in.
And that's the other thing. I did ask them, Julie, when they would be doing the installation, because I said, well, I'm signing up for this. I'm making a 3-year commitment to you. What if you don't get it installed for the next 1.5 years or 2? Do I get it out? And he goes, well, I'm gonna have to check on that. I don't know.
You signed up for service or just install?
No, you gotta sign up for the service to get the install for free. That's what they've made me do. Now, I didn't have to pay anything, but I had to commit to it.
No,
I had to I'm just telling you,
So I've done it too. I've done it too.
Yeah,
I've talked to them about this, how confusing it is. I'm like, people
Yeah.
think they have to sign up for service.
but you
No.
did you do it for the building here? You didn't do it in Sister Bay, did you?
It's the exact same website for where I live.
Okay, because I have two. I have a Bailey's Harbor too, and that's a whole different set of rules.
So you're not signing up for the service at this point. It looks like you are, because you're going in there and you're signing up.
Julie, that's what they told me. I talked to the guy who's in the
Yes,
office
they
here.
told me that you called them. They told me about the.
I told him to
conversation.
tell you called.
They told me a guy from your Parks Committee called and.
I know, I was very
he's really
transparent.
presenting- Yeah, they thought you were calling on behalf of Parks, and that's why I think they were a little like, what do we? I think it was, they're like, we really weren't quite sure what how to answer it.
Well, that's why I
But
told
they
him to
would
talk
get
to you.
on it. Yeah.
That's why, and what did I say that's wrong? I mean, that's what he told me.
Nothing, I'm just saying,
He,
so.
he told me to get the install for free, I had to agree to a 3-year contract.
That's not true. You got hooked and sinker.
I didn't pay anything,
We
I
have a
didn't sign
contract that
anything.
says, we have a contract that says otherwise.
We know who you're talking.
Yeah, the contract.
I got the
says-
guy's
I think
name.
we need a motion, if we're gonna.
Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second?
So Julie, it's screwy.
It's really bad, and we've complained,
Didn't go over Eric's.
we've
report.
complained to them, I think, already.
I had your letter, I read your letter.
Anybody-
Eric's report?
Does anybody have questions about Eric's report?
No.
I thought-
Jennifer Light.
Eric is still on. Or this.
Yeah. I didn't realize when they cleared the site where the old,